The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone to the June 4th, 2024 meeting of the North Carolina Local Government Commission. You have the agenda that is in front of you. I'd like to welcome all those that are joining us remotely and in person, especially our board members. With that, I'll ask Cindy to call the roll.
Good afternoon. This is Cindy Aiken, Assistant General Counsel. And we'll start with Auditor Holmes. In the room with us. Secretary Marshall. Here. In person. Yes, thank you. And Secretary Penny.
Here.
I believe Mr. Burns is absent. And Mr. Butler.
Here.
Here in the room. Ms. Harvey.
Here.
Participating remotely. Councilwoman Hoffman.
Here.
In the room. Welcome. Mr. Philbeck.
Here.
Thank you so much for participating remotely, and Treasurer Falwell.
Here.
Thank you. And LGC staff today present and participating: Secretary Debbie Tomasco, Director of Debt Management; Jennifer Wimmer; Kendra Boyle, Director of Fiscal Management. I'm here. We've got a good team back behind me on our AV, MJ, April, and Lindy. And just some quick housekeeping reminders. This meeting is being recorded and will be made available to the public pursuant to the department's recording public meetings policy. If everyone will please remember to identify yourself when speaking so that the people listening remotely will know who you are. Please mute yourself if you are virtual when you are not speaking. If we have some power or audiovisual connection issues today, the meeting will continue as possible, and recording may be continued, so keep in mind that any conversations may be picked up even though you don't think they are, which is also a reminder the microphones are very sensitive in this room, so if you need to have a private conversation, you may step into the hallway. Unless there's any objection by the members, we'll continue taking votes by roll call. Motions and seconds will be considered as a yes vote unless you decide to indicate otherwise during the roll call. The agenda is again posted on the website. If we have any changes in order, they will be announced during the meeting. With that, I turn it back to the chair.
Thank you, Cindy. Members, as you've heard, we've had a conflict of interest statement. Should any conflicts arise during our deliberations, please let me, Mr. Chairman, know. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes of May 7th. Yes, we would. It's right there in front of me. I apologize, especially. Join of our Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll ask Secretary Marshall to lead us in the salute to North Carolina. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I salute the flag of North Carolina and pledge to the Old North State love, loyalty, and faith.
Debbie. Now, do we have a motion to approve the meeting minutes of May 7th?
So moved. Second.
Motion second being made. Any further discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
May 7th meeting minutes. Motion Hoffman, second Holmes. Secretary Marshall.
Aye.
Secretary Penny.
Aye.
Mr. Butler.
Aye.
Ms. Harvey.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Philbeck.
Aye.
Thank you. And Treasurer Falwell.
Aye.
That motion carries.
Thank you.
May I inject, because I evidently slept it, on item 7, late audits, will there be votes on those?
That's a matter we haven't the commission hasn't determined how to approach all these because we will have a number over this month and next month, and that's one item for consideration if you want to vote on each of those. I'm guessing that would be the appropriate action, each vote on each as it comes up for determination, because the LGC has to make the determination whether or not to direct the withholding. So I think it would be appropriate to vote on each item unless members feel otherwise.
And for me, I just want, if there are votes, I will any of those votes,
Noted in the
given
minutes.
the
We'll note it.
unique nature of my department in the execution of this requirement. I want to be judge and executioner.
Okay. With that, we also have our OPEB report in large print. So we have a lot of items on the consent agenda. And as you can see, especially some of our major areas have, in our OPEB report, have hundreds of millions of dollars of unfunded health care and pension liabilities. And just wanted to point out Charlotte, who's probably on its 30th year of actually putting money toward its unfunded liability. So congratulations to them. Also, that's the one that light right now. And the city of Asheville, actually, $38 million liability, but they have $20 million toward that liability. As you can see when you look at this chart, there's some large communities like Brunswick County, $146 million liability, no money in the bank toward that. Jacksonville, New Bern, all large liabilities, and then that also carries over to pension liability also. So I wanted to draw that to your attention and be glad to answer any questions anybody has about the pension and OPEB report. Hearing none, we'll go on to the debt approval request and on the FPIC units, which is an attachment B. And by the way, out of courtesy to those that have traveled long distances regarding the late audits, we're probably going to move them up on the agenda right after the consent agenda so you can beat whatever traffic you have to beat this afternoon, or rain, or both. So, okay.
This is Jennifer Wimmer, and presenting the one item that is on the agenda. It's a miscellaneous action item for the commission. Town of Star is looking to do a water tank and meter project through USDA revenue bonds. The actual revenue bonds themselves are $465,000, but there is an additional $546,000 grant from the USDA, and a smaller grant from the search grant, which is to help rural communities with their engineering and preliminary expenses for these water projects. The reason you are actually seeing this, normally we do not technically approve USDA transactions. We approve, or you guys approve, the interim financing construction loans that are taken out privately from the communities, and the USDA then takes them out long term. We note them in the agenda items, but this one is being done solely through USDA. There is no separate construction loan. So we just wanted to point that out, and that is why it is noted as it is. So for the FPICs and general financial condition, I'm going to turn it over to Kendra.
Okay. Good afternoon. For the town of Star, they have an FPIC because we don't have their fiscal year 23 audit report yet. And I've had conversation with the auditor. This unit has had pretty much the perfect storm of issues happening. They've had a finance officer retirement. They've had a new finance officer who then left, and then another one has come in. She's been there. I spoke to her today. She's been there a whole week. But they also had a software conversion that didn't, as most don't, go very well. And so that has caused the issues with the delay on their fiscal year 23 audit report. I spoke with the auditor last week and asked for a draft. He was not even comfortable providing me with a draft. But we did, since that time, we do have their proposed budget for fiscal year 25. And we also, because they are on the unit assistance list, we have been monitoring their budget to actuals for the current fiscal year. They do have a healthy fund balance, both in their general and their water and sewer fund, but we have noted that they're not covering their operating expenses in the water and sewer fund. And they are having, for this fiscal year 25, they may have to appropriate some fund balance to cover those operational expenses. Now, this project includes a water meter replacement, and that will give them digital water meters that will give them much more accurate reading. The anticipation is that their revenue will be increasing, and that could be able to cover that shortfall in their operating expenses, as well as the debt service for this debt. So with those facts, we have put them on the agenda for you all to look at approving the $465,000 loan.
Yes, before I call on the auditor, just in the future for the minutes, let's say the unit's auditor.
Yes.
We have an auditor on
You're, yeah.
our board, so
Thank you.
we would not want the public to confuse those two auditor homes.
Thank you.
In terms of the anticipated increase in revenue, could it be possible that the revenue actually declined?
That's always possible if collections are not good. No, having the revenue decline because of
Accurate readings?
accurate readings is not likely, as well as the unit, I forgot to mention this, they are in the process of having a rate study done. And so that there's anticipation that rate study will increase so that they are covering their operating expenses as well as taking into account this additional debt service. So that is planned, the engineer plans to have that done this summer, and that will help with, that also will happen as the audited financial statements for 23 are completed as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
You're-
Yes, ma'am.
Can you characterize how much short in operating expenses are they? Is it like 10% per month or 50% per month? Is it huge?
Right. I've not spoken with the engineer, but when I talked to the town clerk, her estimate was about 25% it would increase.
No. How much is the shortfall in operating now?
Now, it is about, they're bringing in, their proposed budget is to bring in about 300,000 in revenue, and their shortfall is 91,000. So
about
it's
a third.
large. Yeah, a third, yeah.
And they intend to make that by making their meters more accurate and
Yes.
a rate increase?
Yes.
They only have 800, 900 people in this town. How much is that going to be per person? Per unit? 900 people, so we know there's not 900 users.
Right.
That's a substantial increase
It
at
is,
one time.
it would be a substantial increase. So I don't have the numbers on that. They have their mayor should be on, and I believe what I was told is their engineer and their bond counsel may be on.
Mayor Hudson, are you with us? Ashley or Stephen or Bill Hudson from Star? All right.
Bill, Mr. Hudson, are you able to hear us?
You may be muted, we're working on. Self-muted.
Mr. Hudson, if you can unmute, this is your opportunity to say something to the LGC. Somebody can work on that. Okay.
Let me see if Mr. France, I'm sorry.
May I ask another question? You said they have a healthy fund balance. What is that in terms of dollars? And percentages, where, you know, if they were to contribute from the fund balance to cover operating expenses, you know, where would that leave them?
Right. I only have their fiscal year 22 report, so I don't know that what 23's will look like. It'll take me just a moment to pull that up.
And I may have missed it. Do we have an idea when 23 is going to be in?
I can have a rough draft at the end of this week, so I would imagine that the final will be in the next month before our next meeting.
Before the next meeting.
Ms. Anderson, while you're looking, is also available.
Has STAR been responsive,
They have been very responsive, and
transparent,
yes,
competent,
yes, sir,
good governance,
yes, sir.
conflicts?
No known conflicts.
Okay. Staff's recommendation?
Approval.
Okay. Staff recommends approval. Do I hear a motion to accept that?
Well, Matt, this is Cindy. I just want to interject. This is a revenue bond, so the findings are the same as any other revenue bonds, which are the usual amount is adequate, not excessive, a project is feasible. Revenue bond is necessary or expedient. Debt management policies are good, and the revenue bonds will be marketed at reasonable interest cost. These are the findings.
Mr. Treasurer, it does look like Mr. Hudson might be available for us.
Mr. Hudson, were you able to hear any of the questions?
No, sir, I wasn't. We've had an audio problem. I hope we fixed it now.
I'm just trying to recap what a couple of board members asked. What are you anticipating of the 809 residents? How many customers are on this system? That's one question.
First, I want to thank the commission for giving STAR this opportunity, and I'm sorry we had that audio problem. I didn't foresee that happening. But we have online today, I think, Stephen Francis from LKC, and he has more of these numbers than I do. I am relatively new in my position.
Okay.
So the board, the town has around 400 water customers currently.
Thank you for that short answer. And then what are you anticipating in terms of the increase per customer associated with closing this financial gap?
There's not really a good way to estimate that. A majority of their meters are around 40, 50 years old. Meters typically start under reading around the 20-year mark. Really, the 10-year mark's recommended for replacement. So we should see a good-sized increase in revenue just based on accurate readings, but there's so much variety and age of meters there, it's kind of hard to quantify that.
So how do you justify investing in the meters if you can't? How do you manage what you can't measure?
We've known it's been a problem for a long time. This was an opportunity for STAR to replace that and get back to reading accurately. It's something that they've needed to do for a while, and it's now getting done, and we're hoping in the future they'll start replacing as these meters age out every 10 years, every 20 years to avoid this becoming a problem. In the same sense, that this project will also include the rehabilitation of the town's water tank that is in bad condition right now. It needs to be done. That could be a catastrophic problem for their finances if something major was to happen there. So this project is sort of capturing some big priorities that have been kind of pushed aside for a while now that need to be addressed. So it's not. We will see revenue increase. That's not the biggest part of this project, I guess. It's more addressing the infrastructure needs.
Okay. unless somebody else has
So this does not include new meters.
the question from Secretary Marshall was, does this include new meters?
This does include new meters too. It's replacement of their water meters and rehabilitation of their water storage tank.
What's the average water bill now?
I do not have that right in front of me. I want to say around $50. They bill every 2 months, so $50 to $60 every 2 months.
Okay. Secretary.
Thank you. My question is regarding the new meters. Is it possible to take a phased approach, or are you all going in and just replacing all of them?
Due to this being a USDA project, we had planned to do all of these at once. That way we can, it kind of simplifies everything a little more, doing it all at once rather than phasing everything in. These will now be AMI meters, which will allow the town to read meters from town hall to prevent someone from going and manually reading everything. So that transitioned a little easier doing them all at once and getting the infrastructure in place to allow those readings.
I will just note for the record my concern about what the potential rate hike increase could be for the users. It doesn't seem like you all have a good understanding or idea of what that may be. Obviously, water is a required resource, and I'm concerned about the, I'm not sure of the area median income of that area, but I do have concerns about the rate hike and how it might impact the citizens, and especially doing it all at once and not even considering a phase-in approach.
I share the concerns on the impact on rate when you have new meters that are reading correctly, and you have a rate study that could generate additional a changed rate. Let me ask this: while you don't have your audit in, what do your reserves look like?
Mayor, that may be a question you can handle. I don't have that information.
Let me see if I've got this number, Treasurer.
Can he answer my question
I'm sorry,
first?
Mr. President.
Penny, my name's Penny.
Mayor, do you have
We
a
appear
question?
to have a 30% fund balance. Now, I don't think there is any reserve for water and sewer.
Is that a separate fund, separate utilities fund, separate from the general fund?
Yes, sir.
All right, and there's no reserve in that, obviously.
Not that I'm aware of.
And do all your citizens participate in the utility, in the water?
They do. Yes.
Okay. And so there is no way of easing in this rate, softening the blow of any rate change with, or is there a way of softening the blow of any rate change by phasing it in over a 2-year period using reserves from someplace without? Yes, yeah.
So the big reason outside of it being a little easier transition, or doing it all at once rather than phasing, is that USDA Rural Development has agreed to cover a majority of this project with the grant fund. I don't think they would be willing to do.
I'm talking about the implementation side of it. I'm talking about the just pure rate change side of it. I understand you can implement the whole thing, but
Yes.
you don't have to. But do you have to have a change in the rate? Let's say you change the meter, but do you have to have a change in the rate implemented in 1 year?
The repayment of the FDA loan is like $17,000 a year. To me, that sounds like a very small amount that would be spread over the implementation and the monthly bills.
Mr. Penny?
I'm not sure that I understand what you said, but I'm not sure that I got the answer to my question.
Let me ask before I hand off to Mr. Butler. How much of the shortfall is going to be covered by properly measuring the water usage versus the rate increase?
Stephen, can you take a shot at that?
I do not have an answer for that. I apologize. There's a lot of variable age of meters and under reading, and it's hard to really quantify that.
It's going to be $1,500 a month. I mean, it's all we're talking about here is finance $486,000. The rest of it is grant. Payback's going to be about $17,000 a year. You've got what, 500 customers? You bust that into it is $300 a month or something. I mean, per family. So we're not, you know,
Not per month.
I'm sure they can find $17,000 a year. So the town's got 800 people and about 500 water meters. So 500 water meters divided by into 17,000 is one. Jesus.
$2.50 a year.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So we're not talking in dollars here.
I knew 300
Okay.
wasn't the right numbers. Okay, all right. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Well, let me also speak
Secretary Marshall.
about a phased in. That would be unfair to the people that got phased in first and those that were later. So I think that's a real practical idea. But what is your collection rate?
Phase in at rate, it would, because that'd be everybody.
Okay. What is your collection rate? Are you in the 98%, 99% on your water bills?
Yes, ma'am. We've been working real hard on our collection rate. We're at 98% now, I feel like, and previously we were not at 98%, and we're collecting back water bills at this time.
Okay, good.
Any other questions? Okay. This is the treasurer, just two brief things. My ears perked up when you said that the useful life of these new meters is only 30 years. I feel like we're getting into a software vortex like all of us are in, where you buy something and then somebody comes along and says they're no longer support it, and then you're back in another financial vortex. So I'll not take up the commission's time looking into that, but I think it's a concern. So, and is there anybody who's receiving these water and sewer services that aren't paying at all?
Was that question directed to me?
Yes.
To the mayor? No, sir. We're billing everyone.
Okay. There's no straight pipes with no meters in.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Okay. Do we have a motion?
I so move. We approve this.
Second.
Motion is second being made. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk call the roll.
All right. USDA revenue bonds for the town of Star. That was Butler, Hoffman. Auditor Holmes? Aye. Thank you. Secretary Marshall? Aye. Thank you. Secretary Penny?
Abstain.
Ms. Harvey?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Philbeck?
Aye.
Thank you. Treasurer Falwell?
Aye.
Okay. That's 7.
Thank you, Star, and I'm not sure you'll be back to this barbecue again anytime soon, but I just, I'm saying that for staff purposes. When somebody's, now you know the breadth and the depth of the kind of questions we're going to get going forward. how much is going to come from meters, better readings, how much is going to come from increased cost, those kinds of things. Maybe going forward, we can tighten up some of this.
Yes, sir. I thank the commission.
Thank you.
Can't you run a pipe over the U.S. Open? That'd solve all your problems. any kind of pipe. Okay, thank you all. We're now down to our consent agenda.
This is Jennifer Wimmer, and presenting the consent agenda, which is Asheville through the miscellaneous action items of Brunswick County and Sanford. I do want to call attention to a couple of these transactions. The first one is Asheville, and you'll see it's lead service line inventory project. So we will be presenting many the projects over the next coming months. The bipartisan infrastructure law on a federal level was passed, and it designates $15 billion nationwide for lead service line inventory and replacement. So the individuals who have applied for this had 4 chances in 2024. They have already been approved twice at the SWIA meeting, once in February and once in April. There was going to be another 2 meeting award dates, one in July and one in September. Currently, the funding through the state level is $74,259,360. So the first project that you are going to be seeing on the agenda is the Asheville inventory project for $598,650, which is the first item on the consent agenda. But I just wanted to point that out. That is not a typical state revolving loan. It goes through that division. This is a kind of a subsection of those projects, and specifically to inventory and replace those lead service lines. The other 2 items that I wanted to point out on the consent agenda were the Brunswick County Southport merger and the Pittsboro-Sanford merger. These units are specifically on their wastewater merger. They have already taken steps to have interlocal agreements signed. Both units at each of those mergers have taken actions at the unit level to merge, to make sure that the rates and units can best serve their customers at these locations. So I wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of the Pittsboro merger with Sanford, because there is a large project that is multi-jurisdictional in units coming to the commission in the upcoming months, and it will have customers within the Pittsboro-Sanford area. So I just wanted to bring that up. These mergers, based on state statutes, will be effective June 30th. So as of July 1st, it's a clean break on reporting and everything like that. So as in the write-up, they will be taking on assets and liabilities. Most of the units that have anything other than outstanding SRFs are trying to basically pay them off before the June 30 date. So that, again, it is a clean kind of knowing what the liabilities are from July 1 forward. So other than that, I don't have anything to point out on the consent agenda, but if anyone has any questions or would like anything answered, I'd be happy to take those.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Under the Asheville Housing Authority, $28 million. Is it just a coincidence that the developer's fee is $3,120,000, which is over 10% of the project cost, and other costs, whatever those are $3,120,000, which total $6,240,000 out of this $28 million project?
Mr. Butler, the other cost on my draft is $5,000.
The other cost on the one I'm looking at was $355. You're right. All right. So the developer's fee is still 10% of the project cost.
Yeah.
And also under the town of Wallace, are all of those existing lines within the town now or extending any lines outside of the town?
That I don't have that
That you don't
information,
know.
but I can get that.
I don't know. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
This is Cindy Aiken. Since Mr. Butler pointed that out, Jennifer, I don't know if it's duplicated on Asheville Housing. It does have the developer's fee listed twice on costs. That might be.
Thank you, Cindy. I knew I was getting.
It's in line 3 and line 7. That might.
Yes, it sure is. Well, Cindy, thank you, dear. You're making me. I thought I was slipping here at 80-some years old. Thank you, dear.
It should only be once. I apologize.
So that's just a doubled up, right?
Accidental.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
You're not slipping between 10 and 10.
That was a test. See.
As long as it's after 10 or before 10, you're not slipping.
You understand? It'd be 2.
Okay.
Nothing before 10.
I'd like to note that I live in Clayton, receive utilities from Clayton, but I will get no more benefit from this than any other citizen, so I will continue to vote on this.
Okay. Thank you. Members, just if you kind of visualize this, obviously 2 different parts of the state, but there is a lot of drama going on in Brunswick County over water and sewer and H2Go and hard word for a stutterer, reverse osmosis systems, towns, ETJs, developers, people you never thought you would see come together, and partnerships are coming together. Some you never thought you would see divorcing. In terms of these structures, are that accurate? Not being accurate?
I think you can be pretty close.
Okay. So, just be aware of that as far as Brunswick County. Obviously, a lot of our state's economic development attention is focused toward the other issue that was brought up, Siler City, Sanford, Chatham County, and just be aware that FinFast is obviously the one that's making all the news in a positive way, but there are a lot of major developments going on in that area that are going to require a hell of a lot of water and sewer. And on top of that, that some of those areas have been very strong in agricultural production, is the best way of saying that, which creates its own challenges for water and sewer systems, legacy water and sewer systems. So when you're trying to process chickens and you've been doing that for decades in a community, and then all of a sudden Wolfspeed comes in and wants to clean wafers and not chickens, that's just a whole different demand on these systems. So just when you think about these 2 areas, just understand there's a lot of individual things going on in these areas that the local government commission is trying to balance. And lastly, this is an election year. All politics is local. There is a lot going on across North Carolina with some of these local elections. where a change of control of some of these boards is going to be happening this November. And a lot of folks are trying to, get a lot of stuff out the door and across the finish line before they lose office. Now, you can't really measure that, or it's hard to manage it. It's hard to even measure it, but it's just something we need to be aware of. And I specifically have, in meetings with staff, asked about, for example, Concord and Cabarrus County. When you add up all the things that this board has approved just the last 5 years for Cabarrus County and Concord, it may not be $1 billion, but it's getting close to it. And obviously it's a fast-growing area, but just something we need to be aware of when you see some of these entities come on this consent agenda for $50, $100 million, several years in a row. So I just wanted to point out those 3 things to the board. With that, am I ready to vote on the consent agenda? I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved, Phil Beck.
Thank you, Mr. Philbeck. And Ms. Hoffman is a second. Thank you. Any further discussion or any questions about anything that I may have said? I'll just double back. The reason I took so much time on Brunswick County is that sometimes this board approves hundreds of millions of dollars for water and sewer projects based on you being the customer, and then all of a sudden you decide that you're going to do business with him. And so that demand is left the system that we've approved the debt for. It's just something we got to look out for. Motion second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Attachment C, the consent agenda covers Asheville, 2 miscellaneous items, Brunswick County and Town of Sanford. We have a motion, Philbeck, second, Hoffman. Auditor Holmes.
Aye.
Thank you. Secretary Marshall.
Aye.
Secretary Penny.
Aye.
Mr. Butler.
Aye.
Ms. Harvey.
Aye.
Thank you. And Treasurer Falwell.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Now we'll go to item number 8, unit appeals, notices of noncompliance, late audits, attachment. You got the keys, so however you want to drive this. And, here for the late audit part of this, raise your hand. Glad to see you. So be sure to get some fiddles on the way out. They're over there. So, with that, you can.
Thank you, Treasurer. Thought I'd provide a little bit of background and update before we jump in just briefly. As noted previously, we did send out 135 notices to counties and municipalities that had not submitted an audit by April 1st. As of 6 p.m., the rest of the numbers I'm going to give you are as of 6 p.m. last night. So, as of 6 p.m. last night, 37 audits have been submitted. So that leaves us with 98 units that are potentially subject to LGC action. We have had 13 units already file appeals. We have 6 of them with us today, and 7 have already submitted appeals that we'll be presenting to you for July that have just come in the last few days. But it's just been 13, let me back up. 13 appeals that are not based on the guideline for successful appeal, meaning you'll need to hear those appeals and make a decision. Those are appeals based on other good cause, as defined by the commission at the end of last year. So in addition to those 13 appeals that are based on other good cause that the commission will have to hear, there are 9 appeals that are based on that guideline for successful appeal. We'll bring those to you in July just to sort of formalize that action of granting the appeal, since they do comply with that guideline. So that leaves us, so we started with 135, we got 37 in, which leaves us with 98. We have 22 appeals, which leaves us with 76. We have 18 units who have notified us in one form or another that they're expecting to get their audits in by June 30th. And we heard from 6 who plan to appeal. So that takes us down to 52. So we're still working with those 52 units to determine if they think they're getting their audit in, if they'll be filing an appeal, and what the action next steps will be for those units. But just wanted to provide you with that background on numbers before we get started. Members, you have attachment E, which includes two things for each unit. One is just the cover page, gives you a history of their audit submission dates over the last 5 years. And then Secretary Penny and others had wanted to be sure they were aware of what impact financially any decision of the LGC would have on these units. And so we've provided you with that information. Their general fund budget for fiscal year 24, what the total cumulative amount would be if the commission decided to withhold, and then what that would equate to from a monthly withholding amount. So that's provided for each of those units. Again, your packet includes some definitions, and just as a reminder of how those numbers were calculated, and those numbers are all coming from the definitions provided in statute under Session Law 2023-53, I believe it was, Senate Bill 299. So I just wanted to provide that in the way of background. If we go through today, and there's other items that you find would be helpful for future appeals, please let us know, and we'd be happy to provide that in the future. And with that, I know I was just, Treasurer, if you want to, we'll work our way through.
Treasurer,
Yes.
I'd like to ask Debbie, somebody a general question. The units that are appealing, is it the money that is bothering them, or the concept that we're going to take some money away from them if they don't do their audit?
I'm guessing it's both, but we can also let them answer.
Which is it the money, or is it the concept that statutes that have been passed will hold back some of your revenue?
All of the above.
All of the above.
Yes, sir.
So the money is a big deal as well as
The concept.
principle of it.
Correct.
I think there's, if you don't mind me saying,
Secretary,
but there's one other issue. I've been there about a year and
We
a half.
Well, we'll just wait till you come up.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it's both. All right.
That way we can identify you for the minutes. Alter.
Are we seeing any sort of reoccurring themes or issues as to the cause of the delays? And if so, could you share those? I know I've been hearing a lot about sort of outside engagement firms having significant delays. So I'm just wondering how much of this is, within their control, and how much of it is external factors.
I think we'll see that play out in each unit, but over the last number of years, if units don't submit their audit, if an auditor doesn't submit the audit within the contracted date, which is usually by October 31st, we require them to submit an amended contract to us for that. And in that amended contract form, we actually ask them to note the reasons for the delay. And we can actually pull metrics on those, because what we're seeing from those reasons, why they've come back in previous years and said we're going to be late, is the same reasons we're seeing in some of the appeals. But it could be staff turnover, either on the unit side or on the auditor side, software implementations, or Kendra just talked about that with STAR, software implementation cause delays. There's sometimes additional complexity that causes delays. So I think we see the same issues, but it's just a matter of which ones apply to each particular unit at any given time. So, but I think we'll be able to see some of those themes play out as we hear the appeals.
As the new person on the block, thank you for that explanation.
Absolutely, thank you. Are you
and to follow up on that,
Yes, Ms. Harvey, you have the floor.
thank you. Just to ask a follow-up question on that, there were a couple of references in here to auditing firms saying that they're no longer doing audits for towns and cities. Is that an increasingly common thing, or is that a theme that we're seeing?
Over the last few years, we have lost a number of firms that did do our local government audits. So I don't know that it's increasing, but over the last few years, we have definitely seen some firms leave the space, yes.
And I can confirm that from my office's perspective, in that, some of these towns have reached out to our office saying that they can't identify anyone to do the work. And if they do identify someone to do the work, then there are substantial delays because their budget is maybe smaller than some other internal priorities for those firms?
That's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harvey.
I understand the total cumulative amount. How are you calculating? What is the monthly withholding? Because I assume that's
1/12 of 5% of 1/12 of their general fund budget. And again, that was
that's in
purely
the
defined in the statute.
That's in the statute, yeah. Thank you.
So again, we can only take, for everyone's benefit, so much, the amount that could be directed to be withheld cannot exceed 5% of 1/12 of their general fund budget. So essentially no more than 5% of their monthly budget. And it wouldn't total more than 150% of either the contract for their FY23 audit, if they have one, or the total cost of their last completed audit.
150% of it.
50% of that, yes, sir.
And a little bit of sarcasm, I want the record to reflect that the gentleman who's abstaining from voting on this, when it comes to counting the money, he is very interested in what the number is, so.
Right, because I got to withhold.
I know that. I meant that as a joke, so.
We're the ones going to get the call.
So with that, we're going to go through in alphabetical order. I would like to add, I reside in Forsyth County. They were one of those on the list, obviously one of the major counties in North Carolina. And it's deeply concerning. They've never been late. It's regarding a software rollout. And I can say this as a member of the State Board of Education with DPI and pay systems. I can say this as the treasurer. I can say this as a resident of Forsyth County, that there is a lot going on in this state with changing over legacy systems to new systems, and a lot of it's not going well. A lot of it's not going well at all. And when I went and met with the county manager for Forsyth County, I challenged him and everyone else to have the courage to talk to the League of Municipalities, talk to the county commissioners, talk to their legislators. Sometimes, I know it's shocking, but legislators actually write things into law that determines who gets certain kinds of business. I'm sure I'll get called down about that, but it happens. And my point, well, it happened at Revenue before Secretary Benny got there. And my point of saying that to you is that we all have a collective responsibility in this state to have the courage, when you pick a vendor, and that vendor overpromises and underdelivers and puts your town, community, fire district in jeopardy, everybody needs to, when they see something, they need to say something. Because this is not going to end well if everybody just keeps saying, we got this done and we don't want anybody else to know what the trouble we went through. Because it's just going to be pain for everybody across the state at all levels of government. So with that, we'll go to Bailey.
And
yes, sir.
Treasurer, before we start with these folks, let me see if I understand this. Are we going to have the authority today to vote on Town Y, Town Z, and agree that they can waive their deduction? Or are we going to just listen to it and stand with it? I mean, where is the end of the road on this?
Mr. Butler, two actions have to occur for withholding. First is the unit's audit isn't submitted by July 1st.
Right, I
So
understand that.
if some of our units here today are behind 2 years on their audit, so it's unlikely, again, that both of those would come in by July 1st. So you could hear the appeals today, all of them. We could vote on each, the commission could vote on each one today. The commission could vote to hold off until next month to vote potentially, because the action has to be made of the commission. There's no automatic action. So if you don't take action today, even if audits aren't submitted, there's no automatic withholding. It's a determination and a direction by the commission that has to happen. So again, I would leave that to the commission to determine how best to implement. Again, this is the first year with this law. We're trying to abide by the intent of the law while still giving units the ability to make their appeals, and for all of us, I think, to figure out how best to make this work.
I think I've done the math, maybe Cindy better check behind. I think all of them, the 13 we've got, comes to about $177,000. It's a total of them all. I mean, could we decide right here, we're going to grant, and you not have to pay that, or we're going to say, you got to pay it?
And just to be clear, there's no payment, and this isn't a penalty or a fee. What it is withholding a portion of their sales tax distribution.
I understand. Well, I call it payment. You know, at the end of the day, you're either going to take or give. I mean, that's it. It's going one way or the other.
But we're going to hold.
Yeah, hold. Okay.
And
can we
hopefully give back?
Huh?
And hopefully give it back.
After audits come in.
Yes, when their audit comes in.
It's not a fine or a penalty.
I understand.
That's right.
And nothing happens today. No matter what you do today, we will not withhold anything until, I think it's August.
That's right.
August is the earliest. And that assumes everybody is working at rapid speed.
And all agreeing. All on the same page.
Well, I don't have to agree. Once you send me the notice,
Yeah.
I've got 45, I have to hold it for 45 days, and then we will then have to go do a lot of manual work to withhold this amount.
Cindy?
This is Cindy Aiken, just for the commission members' benefit. So combination of what was presented in writing and any presentation by the towns today, what we're looking for in your evaluation is good cause. That's what our standard was. Other good cause supported by evidence. And that the statute is looking for sufficient evidence to meet our guidelines. So whatever you're going to, in your minds, you're going to evaluate, is that sufficient evidence to establish other good cause for an appeal? Why do not order withholding? Any questions on that? Yes.
So you just can't
It's not
waive
the-
everybody. You gotta find specific. That's the reason why we're hearing them individually.
Yeah.
You all are hearing them individually.
Exactly.
And just a clarification on that too, with Cindy's point about the guidelines, the commission did adopt the guideline for successful appeal in December, and we are not presenting those to the commission to hear because they already essentially were pre-approved for appeal based on meeting that guideline. Again, we'll bring those to you in July just as a list to sort of formalize that acceptance of the appeal.
Say what that was.
The guideline for successful appeal is that none of the prior 4-year audits were submitted later than 1 year after fiscal year end. And so that's why we gave you those dates on your form. If a unit has submitted an audit later than July 1st in any of the prior 4 fiscal years, they would not qualify for that guideline. So that's where we're at.
And
This is another responsibility that's been assigned to the LGC that I refer to as mission creep.
let me just add, because we have to get started, it's important that staff, myself as chair, set up a process where everybody across this state is treated fairly and justly. And number one, that's most important. Secondly, the General Assembly members called me and said, why don't you do something about this? Why don't you do something about that? Why aren't you doing something about this? And when we set up this process to treat people fairly and justly, it has to be within the spirit and statute of the General Assembly, because they're going to want to know why we're not following the law properly that they passed. So we're balancing here, and because this is something that's never happened in the history of the LGC or in the history of North Carolina. And the last thing I would say is that there's 3 times as many people on this list as there are staff at the LGC. If you want to know, just not that they don't have anything else to do, but that just gives you an idea of why we got to start out like we're going to hold out in terms of the process. So Appreciate Gus' latitude in explaining all these things to our members. Feel free to ask any questions. So we'll get started.
I'd like to just point out to these folks, because I've been a critic of this, and I've only been on the board here 3 years, but let me tell you the additional duties that have been assigned to the LGC. Now, if a city wants to forfeit their charter, it used to be just a simple bill in the legislature. You ought to see the steps we have to go through now. A little town wants to get rid of its charter. That was never on the before. All this DEQ COVID money, now we're signing off on all those grants, and we don't even have a water person here. That's, you know, in the military, we call that mission creep. What's the other one, Dale? That's the additional duties we've gotten, Debbie, in the last 3 years. The water, the charter, this, and there one more, and the staff is still the same. So just bear with us. I bear with these folks that are on the payroll.
For Bailey?
Yes.
Are folks from Bailey here? Are they Bailey? Awesome. So we have, are you Mayor Strickland?
Yes.
Hello, Mayor.
How are you?
War and Peace. Iron tight.
Exactly, I understand. Just to let y'all know, we received your emails, and we appreciate the opportunity to come today. We have, I announced as mayor in May of 23, and I immediately recognized our situation as far as the audits were concerned. I contacted our town administrator and put this on his radar. This was going to, I knew this was going to come up and bite us. And quite frankly, it has. We have since my conversation with him and my conversation with the commissioners at the time, they began a process of doing. We submitted our 2020 audit, fiscal year 2020 audit, 7/13/2023. Our fiscal year 2021 audit in October of 23. Our 2022 audit in January of 24. We have not submitted our 23 audit because, quite frankly, we found a way to get it paid for another way from the North Carolina League of Municipalities. We have talked to them. We have provided them our auditor. Our auditor was not on their approved list at the time, and they are working diligently to get our auditor on the list. They will pay for our audit if we postpone completion of that audit. Therefore, to save the taxpayers $18,000, we decided to hold our audit until our auditor is ready to go. All the information is with our auditor, so it should be ready to roll just as soon as we get some kind of response from North Carolina League municipalities. Once that is done, our 2024 audit should be hopefully not far out of cycle. I personally believe that's each time we submitted an audit, it was approximately $18,000 for a town of 560 something. We have other issues, water and sewer, which I'm sure BLGC knows about. We know it's not an insignificant amount of money to a small town, and we just want to make sure, and I wanted to make sure someone was here in person to answer any questions you have, and to let you know how diligent we are trying to be in Bailey. There's a new day in Bailey, and I intend to make sure during at least my first 4 years to change the direction the town of Bailey's been heading, and we are doing that as we speak.
Dr. Holmes?
I don't have a question question. My question is for Attorney Aiken. Is it possible for us at this time to call the question or put forward a motion? What procedurally is next?
We're going to hear all these appeals.
And not vote on them individually? After
I
we've
thought I
heard?
said we weren't going to vote today on anything. Because it's at the end of the end.
Not go.
Now, you can vote, it just won't, ain't nothing to happen.
That's going to happen.
Not to vote on them until we make sure that we have a process after hearing from the appellants that is, we're treating everybody, regardless of their situation, in a fair and just way. Which we don't have that set up yet.
So we're just going to hear it
Yes,
from each of these
Yes.
today? Okay.
because we can't hear from all of them at once.
Right, and that's a consideration of how, again, this being the first time we're trying to implement this is if you hear appeals today and you hear appeals in July or units don't appeal, do you want to hear do you want to hear the appeals in their totality from all the units? Do you want to vote on them individually?
Well, now, is his comments going to be in the minutes?
Yes.
Okay. So we will prepare the minutes on each of these people that speak, so we can refer back to it.
Correct.
Rather than them leaving a statement with us.
Well, and each has also submitted a
I
written
see their
appeal,
statement.
so.
Secretary.
Mr. Treasurer, do I interpret this right that we are maybe going to set up the standards for how we evaluate these? We get a sample of what is coming, and just like the findings we have to have whenever we approve a bond issue, was it outside of their control? What was the reason? Those kind of things. And how far behind were they? What actions are they diligently trying to catch up as reasonably can happen? Those kinds of things. If we're making findings that they're moving in the right direction.
And have they been working with staff? There's probably a small chance that there's some entities out in the state that says, take our sales tax money, we don't care, we're not going to do the audit, we're not going to respond to anything. And so there's a lot of that going on more than might meet the eye. That's not going on here today as a result of the presence of these individuals. So.
And I think in part, Treasurer, this goes back to the guideline for successful appeal. The intent of that, I believe, in the legislation was to sort of pre-identify the reasons that would be, I don't like to use the word automatic, but basically that was the intent, was to set up that guideline for successful appeal. And I think potentially as we work through this year, that's something we could be looking at next year, is adding to those guidelines for successful appeal to include those as we see more reasons. Auditor Holmes, to your point, that if there are certain reasons that you would find would be, or the commission as a whole would find, would serve as the basis for a successful appeal, they could be included in that list. Because based on the discussions of the commission back, and I think we covered this over 2 or 3 months at the end of last year, it resulted in one sort of, I don't want to call it a finding, but that one guideline essentially for successful appeal. So from a procedural perspective, again, I don't know what next month will bring that you'll see to know what those reasons are, because not all units have appealed. We have some appeals that just came in, others we know are appealing. So again, this is as we implement it, what's the best course of action to make sure, again, as Treasurer said, everybody's treated fairly.
Mr. Treasurer, may I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Of the mayor? Mayor, you gave a reason for not having older audits done, that you were getting it done with help from the league and it would decrease or eliminate the cost. But one of the things we have seen more than once, I'd hate to know how many times, is a lot of reasons these, especially smaller towns, don't, and some others, can't get an audit done is because their bank reconciliations are months, if not longer, behind. So, Mayor, are your bank reconciliations up to date?
Currently, our bank reconciliations are up to date. We brought in a consultant to help us with that. She assists our CFO every month to make sure that's done. They were not, quite frankly, up to date prior to my inauguration. But they were already working on that process. We also had an auditor issue with, I can't remember exactly whether it was the 20 audit or the 21 audit, but our auditor allegedly had a nervous breakdown, and we had to find someone else. So, and he was in the middle of an audit when that happened. So that was also an issue. But our bank reconciliations are currently current, and I intend for them to stay current because I am actually in the office 4 days a week, whereas my predecessors have not been in the office.
Great question, Mr. Fieldback. Any more questions for the mayor?
Mayor, I'll just state for the record, I understand that many of you probably want answers today, and that's not going to happen. But I will state that based on the information I have received from you today, when we do have the opportunity to vote, I plan to not vote to withhold your sales tax revenue.
Thank you very much. And I totally understand the state treasurer's reasoning for not making a decision today. Fairness is something that I have commissioners that harp on that monthly, and we are doing everything we can to do that in town as well. So I totally understand the fairness issue. That's all anyone in my position can expect from me.
Thank you for your presence here today.
Thank you.
Just for the record, none of the folks who are here were ever told there would be a vote today. They were told they would be able to come here and explain what's going on. So,
I was not expecting a vote.
thank you very much for staying here. All right. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Bellhaven.
Bellhaven? Yes.
This is Cindy. Since I am responsible to oversee the preparation of the minutes, I want to know what the expectations are. So this meeting is being recorded, but we have generally said the recording is not the official minutes. Are you asking me to get a written transcript of what everybody said? Or we have the written statement that they sent? So if you don't have the answer to that right now, I just want to know what you're going to expect.
Well, we have a written response from these communities already, right? Okay. And we do have the transcript available if we.
Well, somebody would have to, I don't know who.
I mean, but it's archived.
For, I don't know how long.
So my preference, not because you'll implode the LGC, is that if some member of the LGC, as we go to vote on these, needs more clarification about what was said, then we'll provide that information to them.
But Cindy, from your perspective, just since I'm not voting, I can be pretty free in there. From your perspective, it is more than just we vote. We have to find good cause. So there has to be something in the record which you all can reach into and find good cause. That's the reason why you're voting on each one individually, and that's the concern. We got to remember Bailey, or you all have to remember Bailey a month from now, and the good cause.
More after more than this.
Correct.
And there has to be some documentation somewhere that is going to give you all that is easy for you to scan through to jog your memory to get the good cause.
A transcript would be ideal.
That's what I think. I mean, are we going, the mayor, is it a good cause that he can get a free audit?
I think so.
Okay, but I'm just saying, is that a good cause? All right. But I think we ought to have a transcript. How you going to decide?
What would that involve, Cindy?
We can work with our IT team.
Okay.
This month.
We'll explore that.
Your transcribers on digital.
Yeah, thank you. Should have called on you first. You got the furthest drive. So, well, not exactly. Mayor, welcome, and Ms. Town Manager. So, welcome.
Thank you for you.
I'm Lynn Davis, Town Manager for Belhaven. We have a population of just under 1,400 citizens, and we provide water, sewer, and electricity, as well as general fund services of police, protection, recreation, and public works to our citizens. Much of our reason for appeal are things that you've heard already today. People have discussed software transitions, they've discussed staffing, they've discussed finding an auditor. They've also, just one thing that hasn't been discussed are the changing requirements of GASB. Requirements not just for towns like us that are small towns, but our requirements as a small town are the same as Charlotte's. We have one finance officer. We actually don't have a finance officer at the very moment. So staff shortages are something that is plaguing many small towns. And my appeal to you as you make this list, if you will, of how you're going to judge communities. I've mentioned these consistencies that we've already heard from other communities. I mean, Star, I thought they were describing the town of Belhaven when they were talking about, when Kendra was discussing the community of Star. But I think you have to look at the greater challenge that small towns are facing than other communities. Chances are most of the people that are in this room are from smaller communities, except for obviously Forsyth County that you mentioned earlier. We are behind. We've just completed our 22 audit. We are under contract for our 23 audit, and we'll have that completed in October. Our plan is to, by February or March, have our 24 audit completed. So by the end of fiscal year 25, we will be up to date, and so our 25 audit should be on time and received by the state as it should be. So we do have a plan moving forward. But just to throw out costs, the mayor of Bailey mentioned the cost for his audit. Our annual audit is running around $30,000. When you add the new requirements for GASB that seem to change every year, that adds additional fees and additional expenses, not to mention the assistance that we've required from our local CPA firm to help us make sure that our documents and our financials are audit ready, because we have had so much transition in our finance department. Those are all things that we're facing, and I know from other meetings that I've attended from other units, we're all in the same, many of us, especially small units, are in the same boat. They're facing the same challenges. And an audit of $30,000 is a huge piece of our budget. And so if we were to take a hit of some of our sales tax money away from our general fund budget, that's going to make a significant impact on our general fund revenue and also on our ability to pay those increased costs of having an audit performed and the additional services that go along with having that audit performed.
Mayor, anything to add?
The only thing I would like to add is, if you've been around the last 10, 12 years, Belhaven has been a hot subject in the news on multiple occasions, for some good, some bad. But I can say we were blessed around 2018 when we hired Ms. Davis as our town manager. I actually worked for the town of Belhaven as an employee in cash collection building, so I understand the inside, how it works. I look at where we were when she first started. We was already 18 months behind on our bank reconciliations from a previous finance director. And then Florence hit 3 weeks after she started. And we have worked hard ever since to be transparent with the LGC, making phone calls, doing everything we're supposed to do to make sure that we get on task to get this update and completed. And we work, it's not a punishment. I understand what y'all saying, but I almost feel like a punishment. And a lot of small town probably can feel the same way. It's like you work hard, spend all these hours trying to make sure everything is done right, and then they come up with some new law that's like I said, just withholding, but withholding from us is different from withholding from Charlotte. So I'll just, hopefully they will just get together and rethink this process and why they even, asking y'all to do something like that, because it puts a lot of pressure on a lot of municipalities. And one thing they're not taking into consideration, you take a small municipality, if somebody already on the cusp of leaving, that could break a community, because a lot of them are like, look, I'm not dealing with this. They walk out, then you really got a problem. So nobody's thinking about it at that point. You can lose a lot of staff because they're like, oh, you got all this extra stuff, we're going to work my tail off, and now I'm being punished, I'm just done. I'm not going to deal with it anymore. So, hopefully it's going to be something that they would really go back and punt and say, oh, look, this right here might be a bad thing. Come up with something different. So that's why I just thank y'all for having us here and taking time to hear us out.
If I could add one more note, one thing that we're doing to try to add to our compliance issues, we are participating in the new program offered by the League of Municipalities, the AIM program. So we're very optimistic about moving into that and getting that one-on-one instruction and bringing our finance department, training our finance staff to be able to be more self-reliant and get us on track.
Secretary Marshall. And by the way, thank you for your public service, not just as mayor, but
thank you.
Employee.
Thank y'all. Y'all service.
I have something to say.
Mr. Bob.
I think we should, Treasurer, I think we should state to all these people, this just didn't fall out of the sky. This came along because municipalities were not reporting their audit, and we were catching them in things that were
I understand.
did not reflect the high integrity of the state of the citizens and municipalities of the state of North Carolina. And the only way to do that is to get your audit. And the only way to get your audit is hold some of your money back. So, that's just how it happened, just not to sugarcoat it or anything else, just tell you what happened. I have a question for you. You said, did I hear you say you provide the electricity?
Yes, sir.
What do you get? How do you do that?
We're an electricity's community.
You are an electrician. So is the electricity money inside this budget we're looking at?
I'm not sure if you're just looking at our general fund budget, because that's an enterprise fund, so that would be our total budget. For this current year that we're in, I think is about $6.5 million, and that includes our enterprise funds.
Yeah, well, that says 330,000. Am I looking at this right? $330,000 general fund budget. What town's the micro?
Here in Bellhaven.
Sign him a different seat.
So this does include the electric money. The 2.8?
No, sir. No, that's just our general fund.
That's a separate enterprise. And how much are they kicking in to help with the audit?
I think we're going to be doing a cost allocation study, a new cost allocation study for this coming year. But I think it was somewhere between 450 and 510 into our general fund for the administrative cost of services.
Well, how's being a part of Electric Cities working out for you?
We get a great deal of support, and especially during storms, training.
You have your own Pullman, your own trucks?
Yes, sir.
Good. And how many people in Bellhaven?
About 1,400.
Works out better than it did 18 years ago.
Do what?
Their relationship with Electric Cities works out better than it did 18 years ago before the General Assembly.
Yeah, and they, some of the, used to have before service. I'm a resident of Water Range, 51 years. So I think they used to have more services they provided. They have cut back, but we always had full electric staffs, water, sewer, all those things. They was already there before I even was born in 73. So it's something that they always had. How they kept it up and got to that point, I don't know, but just keep it going the best we can.
You come in here and talk about 1973. You just had to go there, didn't you?
Hey.
He had to because today is his birthday, so that's why it's on his brain.
Well, we have a rule. Before we pass the floor. Come on now. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mr. Mayor.
Happy birthday to you.
Thank y'all very much.
I can't pretend to know what happened in 1973, but
Everything.
but what I will note for the record is that I reviewed each of these letters prior to coming here, and believe we're going to continue hearing the same issues over and over again. I was in Idaho about 2 weeks ago with the National Auditors Association, and there's a national shortage of auditors and CPA firms, and the market is incredibly competitive. Having been born and raised in Pender County, but having been a Wake County Commissioner, which has about 4,000 staff members, I find it a challenge for small towns to be held to that same standard, and I understand the uneasiness around taking even a small amount from a small town budget. I would love for us to be spending this time, talking about the systemic issues and challenges that our towns and counties are facing. But we do need the audits, but I do wish we were spending more of our time addressing some of the systemic issues. And just like I said for the previous one, having read the documents, I see good cause in each of the appeals that are before us today. And so to keep from repeating myself another 4 times, I will just state for the record that I think there are more productive ways for us to accomplish the same goal, including working more closely with the League of Municipalities to, again, address the root cause of the problem as opposed to addressing it on the back end.
Okay. Anybody else? And to Mr. Philbeck's question, are your books reconciled?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Thank you very much. Happy birthday.
All right, thank you.
For coming.
Have a great day.
Town of Morven.
Marvin.
Morven?
It's micro.
Is it micro? Micro. Morven.
Morven one, okay. It's micro.
Hey, how are you?
Another micro.
This is your birthday also?
How are you?
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Corinthia Lewis Lemon, and I am the appointed town clerk. I'm also on the board, and I'm here to talk about what's going on with the town of Morven. And I wanted to state the facts. One, I know everyone says it's not, our fault. Well, this time it really is not the town of Morven's fault. The county had a breach in their software system. And because we do not collect our taxes, Anson County does. And because of that, they lost all of their information. So they have one person on staff that does this person, and she had to literally go back and reconcile everything by hand for all of the municipalities in Anson County. That was one of the reasons. The next reason was we also, like everyone else, our auditors, we had the audit, which was Terry Beckett. They did our audit. We were giving them information like they was asking us to. And during the time all this was going on, COVID was still kind of prevalent. And so they started having shutdown. And so they kept shutting their office down. So that meant that the stuff that they were doing and working for us, it kind of went to a halt. We also have a CPA, which is Greg Isley. He helps us do our bank reconciliations and stuff. Their bank, they were also closed down due to COVID issues as well, which they had everything ready for the auditors, but they couldn't submit anything until we had Anson County get the stuff. So for a year, we did not have our tax information. And the only reason why we were able to do the audit that we was trying to get in was Greg Isley actually called to the LGC, spoke with the current secretary, which I think he said her name was Sherry Edwards or Edmonds or something like that. He spoke with her and he asked her, would it be okay if we had a modified opinion? And so she said it would be for us to get that audit in. And so we were able to do that. Well, our 2020-2021 audit was actually submitted in It was submitted, and Cherry Beckett actually came to our office and presented it to the board in August of 2023. So we did get it in. At the same time that he was submitting the audit to us, he also gave us his letter of resignation. He says they would no longer be our auditor. So we got that one audit in, even though it was behind, but that we also got the pink slip of saying, hey, we're no longer going to do this anymore. So then that took the town to have a issue of trying to find more auditors. And so we did go through looking for them, and we talked to some. There were some that said they were no longer able to do it. They're not in the state of trying to help with the smaller local municipalities. They said it was more problem than it was worth. So that time we actually had our CPA was helping us as well. So he brought us PB Mars. And so PB Mars was brought to us, and we talked about it. And the issue was $23,000. And I know that sounds like a little bit to some people, but $23,000 to a town of Morven, we literally have 277 water utility bill customers. And we're normally only paying $9,000 at the most for auditors. So you're jumping from $9,000 to $23,000. That's a jump. And we just could not do it. So we kept talking about it, but we knew that we had to get this done. So when it was brought back up, we actually went ahead and decided to vote to go with PB Mars. And they're willing to help us do, they're trying to go down on the price a little bit, but they still have to get the audits done. They did do the audit contract, and we got it signed in January of 2024. So they are currently working on our 2021-2022 audit, and we're actually almost at the end to having that submitted shortly. We have our plans to have all the audits completed by no later than June of 2025, if all possible, if y'all allow us to do so. And that is basically about it.
Very well said. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you.
Bring a councilwoman. Bring another councilwoman.
She's here.
Welcome. Thank you. I want to recognize you since you're in the audience. Okay. Any questions? Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. You got the longest drive, actually. Okay, Newport.
Skip. Did we skip?
Got it. Here, micro.
Skipped it.
Skip.
Do you mind introducing yourselves to start?
Micro's after Newport. I mean, I'm looking at.
Sorry. Okay.
I'm just. She's got the keys.
That is so, I'm sorry, do you mind introducing yourselves?
Mayor Dennis Moore.
Good afternoon, Mayor.
Finance Director Betsy Brothers.
Town Manager William Shanahan.
Thank you. Welcome.
We have Brenda, she's one of our
Councilwoman Brenda Harris.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You want me to take the lead? Well, thank you for allowing us to be here today. Because I think a lot of things we've heard is what we've all lived in the last several years. It's hard to get anything audited right now because the way the system works, and if you put something into Shuck and get it ready to go up, you can't put two in that's ready. So, like when we go to Martin and Stearns, we have one audit that we think is complete. We give it to them, get the other one complete, try to push it through, and we'll cut. We have to wait till one's approved or not. One of the other things is I hadn't heard about or heard anything right now is what's happened to us over the last couple of years. We had a major hurricane hit Carteret County, and I know that sounds weak, but yeah.
From Pender County.
So you know that we had 125 inches of rain in 1 year, and Carteret County and Newport got a lot of that rain, but we didn't have anybody die. But it took us years, and we're still right now trying to get stuff back from FEMA. So it's not like they're working hard to give it to us. So we're behind in that money because we didn't go out and ask for a loan or anything. We took it out of our own books and made that happen. Then along come COVID. Everybody in our town hall got COVID somehow, some way, and each department was broken down. We had finance go out one day. Next day would be planning and zoning. So finally we just kind of said, everybody just take a knee and let's figure out what we got. But during that time frame, the worst thing that could happen to us is not the money loss, but when we lost our friends from COVID and died. So we had 3 people from our town pass away, and then nobody knew what you're supposed to do with COVID. Are you there to take care of business? Did we shut it down? Did we stand 5 feet from each other? And could we not go to church and be 6 foot in the pews talking to each other? So it affected us. It cost revenue shortages. The price of rubber gloves went up from $4 to $25. Cost of doing business got expensive for a while. But everything that's been presented tonight, I think it's affected every single one of us in a different way, in a different area. But we are close to getting all our audits completed. We've had to go to a firm up in Newbern. They quit on us the same day almost. They come in and looked, went back to what a guy was already doing, our reconciliations. They took his stuff and just copied and sent it back to us after we gave them all the money. And once we got our money back, we said, okay, you're gone. And we went to Martin Stein again to help us with our audits. But to make it even better, we had an auditor that lived in Morehead City that we made a deal with him. And that deal was he was to come in once a week until tax season, and he would do the reconciliation of our books. And he was spot on it every time, and talk about somebody scaring you. He might find something and ask you a question, but we were able to answer those questions. But right now, we are still in a pace right now to get our audits done before the end of 25. So we're there. We've gone everything like everybody else. The AIM program, I think the old League of Municipalities has come up with a great idea, and they're coming to work for us this month, so we have more troops coming in to help us get the rest of them completed. And I'm sorry I sound like I'm whining or crying, but, I think it needs to be heard. Folks behind us, they've been amazing today. Everything they said, I agree with. And I'm honored to be in here with you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your comments.
In reference to what the mayor said with the causes, that's like 98% of what I was going to say. But in addition, just so you know, we have had issues. I have been the town manager here for about 1.5 years. Betsy has been the finance director for about 3 months, working on 3 months. And before that, the 2 years before that, they had 3 or 4 managers, 3 or 4 finance directors. It's only been the last 4 or 5 months that we've actually been able to bring in people to get finance department staff. But in saying that, I agree with what the mayor was saying. We've been working with an auditor, Martin Stearns and Associates. We have Lee Carroll, who's a CPA consultant who does our reconciliations. We have been working with the league, and they have allowed us to be a part of that AIM program. So starting this month, we will have, I think they said 3 folks coming in and helping us with that stuff. So we just recently finished the 2021 audit. It was March of this year. We have sent the paperwork, the final paperwork in for the fiscal year 2022 audit. We expect that to be done sometime this month. 2023 is ready to go. We got all the paperwork ready. Lee's done the reconciliation, so hopefully between October and the end of this year, that'll be done. And we're already collecting data for 2024. 23 and 24 are a lot easier because folks that are here have done it, so we understand what we've got. And so, again, by the time we jump into 2025, we intend to be up to date. And in reference to that, we've also worked to deal with Lee, the consultant that at least for the next year to 2 years, that we're gonna have him every 3 to 4 months look at what we're doing to make sure this never happens again. Because we don't wanna just fix it and then start the process of whatever it was. We wanna fix it, we wanna make sure that it never happens again.
You think, Dad?
Yeah, so they both kind of talked about things that I have on my list. I was with the town back in 2019 and left in 2022, so I was only gone for a couple of years when I got a phone call to come back. The audits have been an issue. I remember when I first got to the town, that was the big thing, let's get these audits done. So we started working on 18 and 19, getting them done. I believe now we have adequate staff in finance. For the longest time, they've had one person. And one person cannot do the job when you have water, sewer, have a fire department that is separate from your general fund. It takes more people. So thankfully, and thanks to Mr. Shanahan and the push and mayor and the council approving, we got additional staff. So like you said, our goal is to get these audits caught up by next year. And then we will be on the cycle like we're supposed to be. Come in and help us. We will make sure stuff is done. The one thing I've always scared me was when I got a letter from Sharon Evans. It's like, uh-oh, we're in trouble, you know. And I know the reason for her reaching out was say, hey, y'all have got to get this done. You've got to get it finished. But withholding any of these revenues would be hurtful to the town of Newport. Because not only do we use these funds for the general fund, but some of these funds are utilized in our fire departments. So that's where our concern is.
Any questions from board members? And I'm sure somebody will correct me, but I think the system that you just referred to at the league, by the way, Sharon works for the league now, as far as I know, is General Assembly appropriated 10, 20, $25 million. I mean, to some systems to help do this. So I want to make sure that the LGC is aware that there was a major appropriation to the League of Municipalities to help build a system. So whatever I said was incorrect, we'll correct it. Any questions?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate you listening.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I should have had an extra seat for the other council lady back there.
Micro. So we have Mayor Parnell and Mr. Worsley. Mr. Worsley, you're the Executive Director of Central Pines European Council, and Mayor, you're Mayor.
So I'm the mayor of the big town of Micro. Obviously, our audits are behind. I took over as mayor in 22. There was 3 previous mayors before me, and it was a transition. One resigned, the other one come in and resigned. Anyway, I took over. I've lived in Micro all my life as a kid. So I took the job, and when they asked me about it, they were like, are you going to be able to stay? I said, well, I'll weather the storm one way or the other. When I come in, at the beginning, I did not know until we got to digging in that we were behind on our audits. I think it was 4 at the time when I came in. So I contacted it was Triangle J at the time, because we're short-staffed. Little town of Micro, we have one town clerk that pretty much runs the entire town hall, and we have a public works director, and he handles all of our water and sewer. So we leaned on them to come in and help because we had no bank reconciliations. We had nothing. The previous board, which we have an entire new board now, but the previous board and the people that were in the town hall at the time didn't keep anything. There was no records, no anything. So we leaned on them to come in and bring their staff to help us go through our files and try to find it and get it all together. And we've worked hard. They've worked exceptionally hard, and we're getting on track, but we're still not where we need to be. But we are working very hard to get there. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Mr. Worsley.
So I'll be pretty short. I do want to commend the mayor and the board and Micro for taking this issue very seriously. Like the mayor said, when they came into office, they asked us to come in. We've been working with them for a year and a half. When we came in, we realized there were several issues. One, audits that had not been completed and turned into the local government commission. Secondly, bank reconciliations that had not been done for, I think it had maybe 3 years or more, had not been entered into the financial system. And unfortunately, the town, previous to the mayor's leadership, had contracted CPA from out of town that really didn't provide them any value for the money. And so we had to basically go in and correct everything that they had done for about a year. We've made really good progress. We've also been trying to set them up for sustainability. Our plan is to begin to slowly pull out of Micro in the next 6 months. But during that time, they will have caught up on their audits. They will have all their bank reconciliations completed. They've had 3 budget work sessions already in preparation for the fiscal year 24-25 budget. They've made some tough decisions about service levels. They're actually will have some contingency left over in their budget next year. They've raised their utility rates 15% the last 2 years to begin to get their water and sewer system back in line. They're actually having conversations with the other municipalities in Johnston County and the county about potential mergers and cooperation. So we feel very confident that we'll have them caught up by December, and then we'll be able to very slowly be able to pull out and let them take the training wheels off and operate it themselves. They've done a great job. They've been a pleasure to work with. So we appreciate this time. Happy to answer your questions that you have, Mr. Treasurer.
Any questions?
Yeah. What are the counties that this council of government consists of?
We serve Johnston, Wake, Durham, Orange, Chatham, Lee, and Moore. We have 47 local governments, and actually we're helping right now probably 6 or 7 local governments with finance issues. I think Madam Auditor said it very well. Sorry?
Wake County?
Wake County is part of our region, yes, and we're actually helping Wake administer $20 million worth of ARPA money right now. But I think you said it very well, that I think there's some really fruitful conversations we could be having about how to help local governments, and happy to participate in those at any time.
Very familiar with Triangle J in your work. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
So sometimes I get confused about all these towns. Was there before you, pre-you, was there a controversy between the previous mayor and the volunteer fire department withholding money, like being protected? Am I in the right neighborhood?
Yes, sir. We did have, I do not know what the issue was, but the taxes had not been paid to the fire department.
From the city?
That was once I became mayor, that was the first thing that I was bombarded with. The fire department came down. It was a big, long ordeal of a meeting. And anyway, and we did not know, but they, again, I don't think it was deliberately done. I just think there was no records. Nobody knew. There was nothing. Okay. And so we worked very quickly That was one of the first tasks that we took on, was to get the fire department caught up, and we did. They are currently caught up, and we paid them every quarter. We paid them their money, and but yes, that was.
So you have a fire district tax. Is that what, you have a fire district tax?
No, we have county. It's
The fire district they serve a rural district outside the municipal limits, but there's an agreement between the fire department and the town to send the equivalent of 12 cents on the town's tax rate to the fire department. It's a direct contract with the town for service.
And it's no secret, Secretary.
Well, I was going to ask, you say there were no records. Were there just no records created? Were they very messy? Or did somebody dispose of them?
No, they were just very messy. There was no, as he stated earlier, they didn't put stuff in the computer systems where it needed to be. Filing, there was file cabinets everywhere. I mean, we literally had, he had two people and our town employee. They spent like weeks just pulling out of different filing cabinets and like just grouping it where it needed to be to get where we could even start, to get our audits and stuff done.
We always follow the disposal schedule. We always follow the disposal schedule and recommend that they
Right
do as
answer.
well.
I was hoping it
Questions? An awkward question for me, but it's no secret to you that there's been talk over the years about whether micro should exist as an entity. Thoughts on that? Not as a community, but as an incorporated entity.
Yeah,
it'll always be a community.
And that was one of the reasons when I was asked to come in as mayor. That was one of the issues. I think at that point there was concerns of that, and everybody in the town. Micro is a small town, and like our slogan says, it's a small town with a big heart. The people in Micro love the town of Micro, and they didn't want to see it get taken over or get dismissed, whatever would happen. And that was one of the biggest reasons. When I became mayor, they came to my front porch one afternoon, and they were like, "Hey, somebody's got to do this," and that was their concern. The community and the people in the town of Micro don't want to see it not be a corporation or a municipality. And yeah, we have our struggles as a small town. But we're getting a good group of people in there now, and the town of Micro is going to grow. There's a lot of growth. I don't know how many of you guys have been in that area, but the town is growing, and we've actually annexed a couple of subdivisions in to make the little town a little bit bigger. One is actually already built 10 houses which have been sold, and he's going to build 10 or 15 more, and then we have another subdivision that's coming in with about 68 houses. So the town is growing, and the people in the town, they love it as the town of Micro, and they would hate to see it go. I would hate to see it go, and so we're going to do what we can do and fight as hard as we can to keep the town of Micro there.
Thank you. Any other questions virtually? Are your books reconciled?
We are working on it. Yes, we are almost there. So we have an individual, Nancy Medlin, who works for us, that's going in and reconciling. We're trying to pace that with the audits. We're also trying to be mindful not to charge them tremendous amounts of money and watch their cash flows. So we're trying to pace it with the audits. But yes, by December, everything will be done. We'll be ready.
Thank you. I was actually there on purpose. When I was in Micro, I was there on purpose. I wasn't there. I wasn't lost. I was actually.
Blink, you'll miss it.
No, I was there for a reason. That is to protect the fire department. A couple of years ago. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you for joining us.
Commission members, note on Pikeville, you have their appeal, but they're not able to join us. We actually had some issues getting them in by AV. They're actually attending some good training right now, and they're at training, so otherwise they would have been here, and we weren't able to get them through on AV. That concludes the appeals, but I would like to ask for the direction of the commission for further appeals. Again, depending on, we have a number of units who can use that guideline for successful appeal, and we have some units that are only 1 year behind, and if they get their audits in, they'll be in good shape. However, there's a number of units who are 2 or more years behind. We could potentially be seeing 35 to 50 more appeals. You saw 5 today. So Treasurer, and to Auditor Holmes, your point earlier about sort of the findings and what Secretary Penny said, would it be appropriate, Treasurer, for the staff to try to come up with some guidelines and get them out before the next meeting and potentially, and again, Cindy, keep me here we're still working within the framework, obviously, of the legislative requirements. But the legislation actually does require that units making an appeal appear before the commission. So to the extent that can be addressed potentially in a way that makes best use of the unit's time and the commission's time, and virtually we made all units aware that they were absolutely welcome to attend virtually, and they all had the information. So yes, we made sure they knew they could do that. I think they were, I believe it was the first mayor indicated, it was important for them to be here in person, but they were all given a virtual option. So
my druthers is for staff to go back and don't overthink this, but the first group I'm interested in are the people that will not return our phone calls, will not return our emails, will not return our mail, totally non-responsive, and maybe have even gone as far as say, just take our sales tax. We're still not going to do an audit. I just think we just need to put those folks in a that's just a whole different category versus the heart and the mind and the intuition that these people have brought in here today. That's just two different families of applicants. And then take the rest of the group and try to figure out how to better process this. I mean, this is a law that the Treasurer's Office supported, the Auditor's Office proffered.
Previously, under the previous auditor's leadership.
Do you support this?
I do not.
Thank you.
we will work on a process and see what we can do to have a process. Again, this is, I think staff's doing we're doing what we can within the requirements of the law and also within having this be brand new and seeing what we're seeing. So,
just to make sure that folks heard correctly, the treasurer asked if I personally supported this legislation. Had I been, what was your
question? I said, does the Auditor's Office support the legislation as currently written?
Yes, we support all laws as currently written and will implement them accordingly.
Mr. Treasurer, may I say something before we leave it?
Let's go back.
Yeah.
So I've been watching all these folks that don't do audits habitually, do them late habitually for 10 years I've been on this board. I don't think this law is perfect, but we haven't had any mechanism to get them done, and can't just let all of them slide when they're habitually late. You got to use what you got, and I don't know which ones will meet criteria or not, but there's just really not any good excuse for a town. I know it's a few smaller counties maybe, but you just can't habitually not do what the law requires you to do as an incorporated municipality for the most part. Occasional late audits due to circumstances I get perfectly, but it has been a big issue the whole 10 years I have been on this LGC. And so I hope we don't just skirt over it and not do what we need to do. Because you got to somewhere teach somebody you got to follow the law. That's just my basic thought about it.
Debbie, can you review your numbers before we started? Approximately what percent of our people, of the total units we've got here, have not submitted their audits? 10%. So 9 out of 10 ever incorporated municipality in the state of North Carolina was meeting this requirement.
So we have 552 municipalities, we have 100 counties.
That's 652. 650.
We sent out 135 notices, and since that time, 37 audits have come in. And again, a number of units have said they're anticipating still getting it in by July 1st. I'm looking for my piece of paper. So let's say even with the 135 who didn't do it from April 1st, it's 135 out of 652. So, Treasurer?
Yeah, but his question,
I was waiting for the percent from.
Oh, I'm good with that, but I'd already developed the answer. But he asked about those that we have purview over. So it's not just the cities and the counties, it's we have about 1,200 entities that we have purview over.
Okay.
The water and sewer districts.
That submit their audits to us.
It sounds like the vast majority are submitting them on time. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. 20%. So if everybody else can get to stats.
So just to be clear, the reason I've been giving the numbers that I've been giving is because this law only applies to counties and municipalities. But to Treasurer's point, there are 1,100 units required to submit an annual audit to the LGC.
But this law only applies to counties and municipalities. Yes, ma'am.
Of course, I'm sorry.
No,
she had it.
Did the General Assembly appropriate any additional positions for this work? So I'd like to maybe have Mr. Butler rethink. Scope creep is when the agency itself expands. This falls into an unfunded mandate, which our legislature has done an abundance of in the last several years.
You don't have to tell, that's what I'm talking about, Elaine.
That's not scope creep, though. This unfunded mandate, and it goes to the feet of the legislature. They want more and more done, but they don't provide the resources to do it.
I agree with you. If I use the wrong term, I apologize, but it's still just loading us up.
Well, it is.
It isn't what we signed, I've been here 3 years, and it seems like this has added on. This is.
We agree. This
and
staff
it's all
doesn't
come
get,
from the legislature.
The staff doesn't get the support it
And
needs.
we don't have any more people.
And I
tell the members of the General Assembly I'm with. I said, you don't have a clue what's going on in the LGC. I said, damn, what is the thing that's holding together?
And I would say that many local governments feel the same about unfunded mandates.
I would say, if the numbers are right, it's very close to 21% of our governmental units that are falling short in some way. It's 20.7. And I would dare say, if I looked at those, if I took a budget number or looked at the bottom, the lowest, smallest 15-20%, I would probably see an inordinate percentage of that being impacted. So if we really want to have some impact, it may be worth our while to look at this, to segment up these people that we're getting ready to withhold their money from, and to look at how it impacts the smaller, and maybe seek to find ways of helping them comply versus. And I understand I'm just holding, it isn't punishment, but for some of these cities, $11,000 a month is a big hit, particularly when they are not getting large. We haven't considered how much sales tax they are getting. There's nothing on this chart that tells you how much sales tax they are actually getting. And for some of them, that's a big chunk of their money. We may see some police cruisers stopped along with flashing lights, not for stopping someone, but because they haven't been maintained.
Mr. Treasurer, I haven't heard anyone come in here and say that they haven't turned in their audit because they just didn't want to. I think there's a difference between egregious or just, failure to do it because they don't want to or don't feel like it. And I do agree, those exceptional circumstances should be addressed accordingly.
How far behind was Spring Lake on their audits?
They're working on 22.
They're working on 22 now. They
Working on
were probably
22.
5 or 6 years behind.
And what was that, a $500,000 hit the town manager made off with?
That we know
More
of.
than that.
Blood the checks,
Right.
nursing homes.
That we know of.
But Mr. Butler, she wouldn't have made off with that much had there been a mechanism to make them get their audits done. If they were 3 or 4 years behind.
Listen, I am 100% on board. I feel for these folks, but they're in a monopoly. Everybody else is finding a way to do it, and nobody is putting a gun to their head and saying you have to run and be the mayor. If you want to saddle up for public service, you got to address what the responsibilities are.
I hope this is not controversial.
Secretary Marshall.
One of the other things I would be interested in knowing when we evaluate this is what is their tax collection record? If they are not, collecting their taxes, that obviously is a hole in their ability to do anything.
Well, that'll show in the audit, Elaine.
And that
But we
does,
don't have the audits,
and in a lot of the municipalities, Kendra, correct me, they rely upon the counties, especially in the smaller units, to do the tax collection for them. So they're relying upon the county for that collection percentage, essentially.
But I have a feeling the counties are doing a better job, obviously, than the small towns can do themselves. And some are still doing it themselves.
Okay. I think given everything I've heard that as chair of the LGC and staff has heard, I think that we're going to be able to come up with a plan that is efficient and that is fair and just regarding how to deal with these issues going forward. I'm optimistic about that. I'd also say that, given all the names that are on this list, if I were in the shoes of the people who came before us today, I'd rather be the first people in here, not the last. So I think you did yourself well by being part of the first group. Even though we don't know what the alphabet looks like, we did a pretty good job of getting you in and getting you out. So I really want to applaud all you're doing and thank you for being here. All right, number D.
Kendra, did you want to take a brief break, Treasurer?
We'll break till 3:45.
And as a reminder, the microphones do remain open, so Holbeck, are you able to hear us?
Yes, I hear you.
All right, we're going to get started, and
3:45.
It's Ms. Harvey.
Ms. Harvey, are you able to hear us? Let's see if she came back. She's still connected to us. She might have just stepped away.
or email her. Safe harbor policy requirement.
Yes.
With Rocky Mount, but Commissioner Harvey.
I sent her an email.
Yes. If
you guys want to come on up here while we move here?
What item are we on, Mr. Chairman?
We'll do Rocky Mount, let these folks get on their way.
Number 9, Mr. Butler on the
Number
agenda.
9.
Number 9.
There.
Says town of King.
What should we do? Sorry.
I emailed.
Welcome. Reason that Rocky Mount is on the agenda is that Auditor Holmes asked that we have a discussion about what's going on in Rocky Mount. For historical purposes, we had asked the city mayor, the city leadership to appear to put more transparency on everything that's gone on over the last few months. I never heard a response from our proposal to take the land and combine it with the needs of the fire department. Never heard a response. Nor did I hear a response from about whether they were going to appear today. Obviously, we're glad to see you and thank you for all you do. With that, Alder Holmes.
Mr. Chairman, just for clarification purposes, my request was for a discussion specifically regarding the fire station. So I just wanted to clarify that any questions that I have will be related specifically to the fire station, and that was the previous request.
I think that's inaccurate, but we're here now, and this is how we will proceed.
Absolutely.
I think it was about why this is not on the agenda.
Why the fire station is not on the agenda, and how we would move forward in ensuring the public safety of the citizens of Rocky Mount.
So, how did y'all prepare to roll with this? And I want to say I'm sorry that the city leaders decided not to respond to the letter that we sent. I'm sorry that they decided not to respond to our request to appear. And I'm sorry that you're even here. You're having to be here. There was a clear, simple path to doing things the right way. And you're sort of caught up in that vortex. And I'm sorry that that's happened to you.
Treasurer, I'm gonna have y'all been directed here by the administration of the city of Rocky Mount? Did the city manager or the mayor suggest you come here and talk about your fire station, or are y'all here on your own? How did you get here?
Yes, sir. So again,
introduce yourself.
Yes, sir. My name is Darvin Moore. I'm the fire chief for the Rocky Mount Fire Department. Today I have with me Chief Michael Roop. He's our chief of planning and administration, and I also have Chief Jamie Cook. He is our chief of operations. And yes, sir. I actually, of course, this has been a long-term process in reference to getting this fire station constructed. I've been eyeballing the LGC in reference to getting approval. The city of Rocky Mount has submitted their application back in February, to my knowledge. And I actually registered for the May meeting as well as the June meeting as well, too, for today. And yes, I thought that it would be beneficial for y'all to have a direct explanation from the fire department of why we actually need that fire station constructed and done. I think there was some miscommunication of currently fire station being operational now. We have not been in that fire station for about 2 months, or actually 3 months. We moved out on March the 1st. So hopefully that gives you a little clarity of some of the speculation that I've recently heard from the last meeting in May.
But my question was, are you here at the direction of the administration of the city of Rocky Mount?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that's why you're here.
Yes, sir.
The city manager or the mayor or some members of the governing board directed you as the fire department senior people to come here and talk about the fire station.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I want to say, as you proceed, I don't remember anybody on this board talking about the need to provide fire protection.
Yeah, I would strongly disagree.
Likewise.
I specifically talked about the fact that I was uncomfortable not putting this on the agenda. If you can remember my words, that I was uncomfortable not putting this on the agenda, particularly because it was health and safety. Your reply to me was that this fire station was in operation, so there was no health and safety issue. And then I came back saying, well, then let's hear from them. So yes, the health and safety issue, because this is not an issue about whether this should be approved. This is an issue of should this commission give them an opportunity to either vote up or down on the fire station. That's really what we're talking about, putting it on the agenda. And this is not even putting it on the agenda. This is just so they can argue about the importance of it, so whether it goes on the agenda or not.
Mr. Secretary, don't you think we don't usually see department heads like this? I've never seen a uniform in here in the years I've been here. Shouldn't the policy makers of the city be here rather than people that representing whatever department, police department, water sewer department, whatever department it is? Shouldn't the senior policy people be here making this proposal to us?
That's a decision that I don't run Rocky Mount. I don't make decisions about Rocky Mount. That's a decision but the question here isn't, again, I could see that if we were talking about the finances and it's on the agenda and should we approve it, because there's a letter, email that analyzes the finances of Rocky Mount. And certainly if that is the case, yes, you're correct. We would need to see finance director and others. But here, we're really talking about, should this get on the agenda? That's the only issue. Should we put it on the commission's agenda, or should it be left off the agenda?
And so these folks here are speaking for the administration of Rocky Mount. He's going to, I guess, tell us the importance of the fire station and everything. and encourage us to when they leave away, when they walk away from it, is that we ought to have this on the agenda without any input from the governing board.
We never get input from governing boards to put it on the agenda. We get input from governing boards once it's on the agenda to vote it up or down. But things, you've not seen the governing boards of any of these towns on that consent agenda, did you? We never get, we don't.
I got that it was implied that the governing board was behind every one of those issues.
And it's implied here because they have an application. It's they did the same application that all these others did. The difference is they didn't get on the agenda for us to consider, positive or negative. This issue, let's don't conflate the issue of do we want to vote this up or down. That's not the issue right now. You have never got a chance to decide whether it should be voted up or down.
We don't have a package to
there is a package. It just hasn't been on the agenda.
Treasurer Falwell, to follow up on your statement, I have an email here from Ms. Tomasco from April 25th stating, "Good morning, Commission members. At the April LGC meeting, Auditor Holmes requested an update on the Rocky Mount Fire Station 2 project. And this was initiated by my initial email to you regarding the fire station project. And then you responded with a letter regarding a different issue. And my specific inquiry is just regarding the fire station."
Okay. All right. It's obvious that there is a conflict with how I chair this commission and what's on the agenda. So I think people just need to be clear about that. Number one. Number two, normally things like this are consent agenda items. And when we have our meetings, I'm the treasurer, I chair this commission. When we have our meetings, it was brought up to me that this application to fix this fire station, repair this fire station, was poor debt management policies. So you can use all the fancy words that you like, but the fact is they go together. The needs of this station have been, you said, it's been a hard, long process. How long has the need to refurbish this station been around? Months, years?
Yes, sir. So years. This station is currently 48 years old.
Yeah.
This is one of the oldest city facilities that we have in the city. It's been open 48 years, 24 hours a day, 365 days out of the year.
Good.
And it has wear and tear, definitely wear and tear.
Sure.
We've been looking to replace this fire station roughly about for the past 6 years.
Yeah. Right.
Currently, we were able to get approval from our city leadership, and we was in anticipation of getting approval from the LGC coming up in March. It was supposed to be in the March, I guess, meeting, and we actually moved our current staff out of that station to one of our assisting stations to run fire calls, emergency calls out of that station. But since then, of course, we have not had any, feedback in reference to getting it approved. This has a major impact on our service delivery. The city has 7 wards in there, and this fire station is actually in one of those wards. And this ward here is our second largest ward, where we service 11,000 people. There are approximately 286 residential structure within 1 square mile. So this definitely has an impact on our service delivery. Our department is internationally accredited. We've been internationally accredited for about 20 years. We just received our reaccreditation status of February of this year, and we also ISO Class 1. So this station has a direct impact on our service delivery and the actual service that we provide for our citizens.
What, if I may ask, what was the financial vehicle that was going to be used to finance what they want? Is it a revenue bond? Is it a GO bond that's been approved? I mean, how are they going to finance this?
It was an installment purchase. So
what?
It was a bank loan.
A bank loan.
A bank loan.
For how much money?
$11.4 million.
11 million?
11.4, yes, sir.
So
local bank was going to loan the money to you.
Bank of America at 4.32 interest rate.
So to be clear, this thing, the needs of this fire station have been around for years. Then there was an opportunity for the city of Rocky Mount to speculate by buying a large tract of land. And this is not news to you. And so they put the needs of that economic development project and that purchase of raw land, which is, some say, was for the purpose of a casino, ahead of the needs of the people of that ward. And that's what the facts are. And
is that what happened? Did the city buy that land before they took care of this fire station thing?
yes. And when this was brought to their attention, and when we were trying to find a solution to this, we said, just whoever your financial advisor is, they chose to put the economic development needs of a potential casino in Rocky Mount ahead of the fire protection of that community. There's no debate about that, because the purchase of that land, the optioning of that land, the closing of those land transactions, your needs were years ahead of that, as you've just stated, and I agree with that, number one. Number two, we presented an opportunity to come back and take that speculative economic development land acquisition and combine it with this and finance that capital project the way that it should be financed, which is through the approval of local government commission. They chose to do it in that way so that it would not come under the transparency and the sunshine of the local government commission, which has put your department and your citizens in jeopardy.
And how much money was paid for the land?
Tens of millions.
Tens of millions.
And how is it financed?
And how was that financed?
For 59 months.
It's 15 million, all right.
And how was that financed?
For 59 months.
For 59, and who financed that? Or did they have it on the hip?
It didn't come in front of us.
So we don't know where that money came from.
No, so
that impacts the financial status of Rocky Mount. They've got a debt that's off the books.
That's right. So
the debt is on the books.
Yeah.
Still on our books.
It's not, well, it is not required to come to us the way it was financed.
the way their financial advisor recommended they do it is not requiring us, did not require them to come through here. And so in order to fix the problem, not meddle, but actually fix the problem, I sent a letter in November or December, somebody correct me, and said, this is going to result something that you've had a need for years. If you do this transaction this way on this speculative land economic development deal, it's going to limit your ability to borrow money. That's what the letter said. And they've chosen not to acknowledge or honor that, number one. Number two, even after they did it this way, they should have done it this way. After they did that, then given them another opportunity to finance this capital project on a long-term basis, the way capital projects are financed in cities, and combine it with this and come back with application, and there's no problem. And either we support fire safety over economic development and speculative land deals, and we support good debt management practices, or we don't. And this is how I feel about it. There's different opinions on this board about casinos. There's different opinions about all kinds of other things. But your financial advisor and the city of Rocky Mount let you down. And that's why I invited them to come in and explain what is so difficult about doing it right? Now, I don't know. I've not been to Rocky Mount to meet with the city leaders. Alter Holmes, I think, stated that she had been there. I don't know if you had recent meetings with the city of Rocky Mount yesterday. Okay. Well,
and Mr. Treasurer,
so
I've read your email, and I'm not necessarily saying that your analysis is correct or incorrect. But what I am saying is that the city of Rocky Mount, that all of those go to the financial viability of the city. That is a consideration that the local government commission should make, and not one individual. Because right now, your vote is the only vote that has counted, because the rest of us have not had a chance to look at the data, make the analysis, and vote on it up or down. I don't know how we would vote, but I would say the right thing to do is to bring the transaction here to let us vote, to let us see the data and vote on it.
Mr. Secretary, though, what if we did that on every project that we do?
We do.
Isn't that our job?
That's our job. You want to give your duty. If you want to give your
about
vote to him, that's fine. Sign it over. I'm not.
That's what I'm saying. But I never see projects before us until they're brought here and we look at them.
Right.
And we have, I don't know if it's by statute that the treasurer, as the chairman of the LGC, sets the agenda.
There is nothing in the statute that says that. In fact, there are things in our minutes which say that the commission sets the agenda. All I'm saying is we deserve the right. One person cannot veto this project that has been properly applied for, that we deserve the right. The people
and if it was brought before us and we just sat out and brought the newspaper and you brought WRL in here and said, let me tell you what, did you know that Rocky Mount put a speculative land deal for a casino, which the legislature has not adopted for several sites? They put that in front of the fire station, and now they want us to approve to do the fire station after they're still speculating or hoping something's going to happen on this piece of land. Yeah. And that was their priority over their own people.
And I would say that you are one, not the city of Rocky Mount. I would tell you two, however, if in fact that transaction made Rocky Mount's financial situation and put it in such a condition that it was not suitable for this
You're talking
proposal.
about the fire department.
That's right, for this
You're not
proposal.
talking about the land.
I'm not talking about land.
Okay.
If that transaction, if the Rocky Mount finances, after we look and analyze them, will not bear the weight of this transaction, then you have the perfect right to vote it down. But you don't have that right until it gets here. And I'm saying it needs to get here.
Well, part of the chairman's role is to try to get it right. And I thought sending a letter based on staff's recommendation that what they did, you keep wanting to separate these two, and they're not inseparable. The needs of these citizens and the needs of this fire department have existed for years before these people even decide to sell this land or the thought of a casino came up. And by the way, I think there's even a resolution in Nash County that says there can't be a casino unless it's by the vote of the people. But I may not be correct about that. So my point is that you do it in your job. The altar does it in hers, and the secretary does it in hers. You know, you try to put things in a position so that you have the right outcome. The right outcome is that when you're making a $15 million acquisition for economic development that should be financed as a capital project on a long-term basis that should come from the local government commission, and you're told that this is poor debt management practices if you proceed this, and it's going to limit your ability to borrow money going forward. Is that what we told them, Jennifer?
Yes.
I mean, don't just say it because I'm the treasurer. I mean, say it because
Is there a letter that would prove it?
There's an email that says that.
Said could.
I think.
That was my point of clarification. Is it staff's specific contention that this land purchase has now put Rocky Mount in a situation such that they cannot finance, or that they are prohibited from having this fire station, which is a public safety issue? Is that, because I think you used the word could, are you, like, is that, I mean, I read could as in maybe, like, have we determined that it will indeed prevent them from being able to finance this fire station? Is that staff's contention?
It's could because that's not our role. Could.
Because it's not our role? Because the land purchase does not currently fall under the purview of the LGC. And therefore, I would like what does come under the purview of the LGC to simply be considered by the LGC, and then we can vote accordingly like we do on everything else.
And in fact, if the words in that letter and the could is if in fact it is what that email said, then we'd be justified in voting it down.
Now, is there a piece of paper with the city manager's signature or finance officer at the bottom of the page asking us to consider it?
Yes, there's an application, just like everybody else's application. Yes.
Full detailed application.
Yes.
The email did not say that application was in any way incomplete. It's
The
a
chairman
full
just responded
application.
yes.
All I'm saying is we need to give them, it is unfair, and it is not full transparency to deny them their day on this application.
Very good in this. Secretary Perry, I didn't tell this in your first rodeo. Penny. You're in your first rodeo arguing one of these cases.
How long will it take to build, before you build the fire station in your back operating?
The contract approximately told us 2 weeks, 1 year.
1 year?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't think we can do it that fast in Greensboro.
And the application has been in since March, so the longer we delay the votes, the longer the people will be delayed, better response times, essentially.
Correct.
Which is affected by accreditation and ISO. Yes. And I would say to, if I could, Michael Root, the Assistant Chief, to you, Mr. Butler, you asked a question about the city management not being here. We're in unity with our city management, and we came to represent the fire department side since it's a fire station that we're pursuing. And I guess my only question, and I don't understand all the money side of stuff, so I may be out of place here, but I think that what we're asking is just that you put us on the agenda. And if the city of Rocky Mount is not able to handle the debt, then that's what I thought that you guys' job was to decide. And we can accept that at that point. But we need to get on the agenda because we're 3 months out right now serving our citizens in that area with a year added on to that once we start the build. We moved out with the anticipation that this station was going to go forward and that we would be ready to go and have our crews back in there serving our citizens. Again, we 100% appreciate you guys allowing us to come in and sit here today, and it's been eye-opening to hearing the other stuff too. So it's been very rewarding for me to hear this stuff. So thank you for the opportunity. And
How
the
long
main
has
intent-
your city leadership known of the need for this, replacing this station? I mean, you said it was 40 years old, right?
It's been 48 years old, that's correct.
How long has it
How
been
long
on the
it-
agenda? How long has it been on the project
Since it's been
list?
on the radar for your city
Radar,
leadership that you need to do something.
City manager.
Well, of course,
10 years, it's been
definitely 6 years easily.
6 years?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you say 15 years?
6.
We was considering relocation and moving it out, but based on the economic growth of the city, and we still want to provide excellent service downtown, so we decided to rebuild there and start off from scratch at that station because we do have a lot of economic growth downtown in the city of Rocky Mount. And like I mentioned before, that's our second largest ward. The population density is 11,100 people, and that is our busiest station in the city. We have, like I mentioned before, there's 7 wards. This station, since 2014, we have ran over 23,000 calls. We average about 2,400 calls there a year. So currently right now in the area, yes, we have control over how fast we get out of fire stations. We just don't have control of where the fire stations are located currently right now. So that definitely have an impact on our travel times and providing the service for our community. So.
How long have you been chief?
10 months.
Oh,
Yes, ma'am,
okay.
10 months. This is definitely new to me. So, but I've been with the Rocky Mount Fire Department for 25 years, and actually, amongst us three here, we actually have over probably 7-8 years of fire service with the city of Rocky Mount.
But at the end of the day, the city fathers chose to use resources to buy land, hoping it'd be a casino in lieu of building the improvements you want on the fire station. You were secondary to that.
Mr. Butler, to be honest with you, that is not in my area of expertise. I can't say the reason why the city purchased that land. That's our focus. My expertise is focused on fire protection and emergency service.
I understand,
within the
Chief.
city of Rocky Mount.
And at the end of
You've been
the
put in a bad situation.
And at the end of the day, it's not our responsibility to set the priorities of Rocky Mountain,
No.
but it is our responsibility to judge whether or not their application merits approval up or down. That part we haven't had the opportunity to do.
And in terms of addressing the city council, I think we all here understand that elections have consequences. And so if the people of Rocky Mount are unhappy or not satisfied with their leadership, they can certainly exercise their right to vote. But as to our statutory responsibilities, I'm not sure why this fire station is being withheld over a vote that is not connected to the issue at hand, unless staff is telling us that because of that decision, they now aren't viable, but that's not what I'm hearing from staff. So I would like for us to separate the two issues and focus not on how we feel about how the city leadership is working or not working, and focus on the public safety and well-being of the citizens of Rocky Mount and do what is within our statutory authority, and at least put it up for a vote so that we can receive all of the information and vote it up or vote it down. I'm not sure why that is controversial.
Well, it's not.
It's not controversial.
And you weren't in the meeting, Alder Holmes, when we have a pre-meeting where we set the agenda, and things like this typically go on the consent agenda.
Can we put it on the consent agenda?
Well, you weren't there. And I said, what is going on here? And I was told by staff that this was poor debt management, given the transaction that they did back in December.
Does staff have that in writing? Can we see it?
Ma'am, this is...
Well, I'm not sure that he's talking about a meeting that we were invited to.
were you in a meeting yesterday, the last 48 hours, with any member of the leadership of Rocky Mountain?
I was in Raleigh all day yesterday.
I know, but
I don't know what you're talking like.
Was there a meeting where you have met with the leadership of Rocky Mount on this topic?
Weeks ago, it was mentioned.
But not last 48 hours.
I have not been to Rocky
I
Mount.
know,
in
no,
the
I
last
didn't say
48
going to
hours.
Rocky Mount. I'm saying a conversation.
I have not.
Let me,
I'm not sure how that's relevant.
Well, it's relevant that when the chair of the local government commission, at the request of the state auditor, asked the city leadership to come in, I know you're speaking with one voice, and explain their premeditated decision to do this land speculation over the fire needs of the community and to finance it based on the advice of their financial advisor, which we should FOIA, to put it in at 59 months so that it would not have to come under the sunshine of the local government commission, because this was a hot and is a very hot topic in Nash County. And these gentlemen's needs have been out there for a decade. This land deal came up and just like that. And we're just trying to make it right. And there's a perfect opportunity, whether you like the way that this is rolling or not, this has preceded you.
Understood, absolutely.
Okay.
My thing is, I don't want to put the citizens in jeopardy and lives in jeopardy.
The city
to make a point.
the city council has put their own citizens in jeopardy. It's so clear. The city council and the leadership have made a decision based on how to finance the speculative economic development deal to put those needs over the needs of this fire department and these citizens.
That is for the citizens to decide, and what is for us to decide is whether or not the fire station meets the requirement to be voted up or down.
the city council made the decision to buy land, which we do not have the authority to vote on at all, and the authority to try to finance this. We are making the decision. No, I'm sorry. You are making the decision that because they purchased land in a way that is not according to what you would have preferred, that we will not even consider the financing of this project. That's what it is. The city said it's trying to go down both routes, buy the land and finance the financing. They did it. They showed that by buying the land and filing the application. They're trying to do both. We're deciding to halt the purchase, the financing, because they bought the land. I might also add that I have some legal concerns here because, quite frankly, you're making me go back to my old days in law school. You're acting ultra virus, all right? And that's when a state official goes beyond their statutory duty. Because what we're saying is, because this matter was structured in a way that we don't have the authority to regulate, we are going to not even put on the agenda and consider a matter that we do have the authority to do.
But, Mr. Secretary,
Yes.
this man's been elected 8 years, the third highest vote getter in the
Just
state,
like the city council.
and
Mr.
has guided us through. We have had no projects go south on us. We have had no scandals occur. He made the decision on Bald Head Island not to put it on the agenda, and look what a correct decision that is today, rather than a separate authority that would have had the ability to raise the rates to whatever they wanted to. And the citizens getting on that ferry wouldn't have a prayer of what they'd pay.
I believe Bald Head Island is owned by a private entity.
Now, I'm talking about when the application was before us by an authority.
I believe I was on the commission. I don't think you were. You were on the end, but I believe Bald Head Island is owned by a private entity.
Yeah, but
I believe Bald Head Island actually sold for more than they were going to sell for if the authority had bought it. And I believe they held it off because they said that it was too high priced. So yes, thank you for bringing up Bald Head Island, because Bald Head Island is an example of us holding it off the agenda because we thought it was overpriced, and then it sold for more to a private entity.
But it has not sold to a private entity. It is still owned by the entity that has always owned it historically. What we did was take it out of a public body, that an authority that could have set the rates, which would not have been subject to the Utilities Commission, and could have been, there'd been huge impact on all the citizens that would have used it. And that was a wise decision, and those negotiations are still going on. The authority would like to do it. Their private entities would like to do it. The city of the village of Bald Head would like to do it. But the ferry system is still owned by the Mitchell family. Those are the facts, and they're indisputable. So the decision to not put it on the agenda was a wise decision to curtail creating an entity. Let me tell you, I've been in government a long time, and where you want to end up in government is running an organization with a revenue stream with no oversight. You want a good economic development organization? Look at Northern Kentucky, where the regional program up there gets the taxes off the car rental fees that everybody has to pay for to go over to Cincinnati. Look at Amarillo, Texas. In government, where you have arrived with the sweet spot is to get with an agency that has a revenue stream with no oversight, and you can rock and roll.
There is oversight here. It's called the LGC, and I would like the authority to vote on it. You can give up your authority. You can do that. You have the perfect right to do that. I don't relinquish my authority. I should have the right to vote on this.
I'm pulling out what I think when the treasurer made the decision not to put it on the agenda, what a wise decision it was.
And you can think the treasurer is the wisest man, the next man to Solomon. That's fine. I don't relinquish my right to vote to the treasurer. Period.
Let's get back on. My hope was that the city council would come to the local government commission and refinance the land in a way that is suitable for an asset like that. And it's a layup. And not only choosing not to appear here today, choosing not to respond to whether, you see, we had a full house today. I asked who was going to be attending because I wanted to see if we're going to be able to get people to seats. And not even a courtesy of letting me know of who was going to appear or if anyone was going to appear. And no response to a solution to cure this issue. And that's it. So I'm personally very disappointed in the city leadership for not having the courage to come in here when they send emails to two of the council members, but not everybody, from what I can tell from the address line. So I'm not really sure what's actually happening here. All I care about is the solution. And the solution was simple. Come in front of the local government commission, make an application to finance this capital asset in a way that reflects good debt management practices, get you the needs that you need, and be done. I mean, this did not have to be the way that it is.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know what's happening in Kentucky or Texas, but what I do know is that failure to put this item on the agenda to even be fairly considered or heard is having an impact in Rocky Mount. So is it the chair's contention that this board not have the opportunity to vote this issue up or down on the agenda?
That would be incorrect. It's the chair's contention to try to get the city of Rocky Mount and their financial advisor to come back and finance this initial transaction in a way that represents good management practices. Period. That's the only contention there is. Secondly, and it should be obvious to everyone, that they decided to close the fire station because they thought that they could do what they knew they could do, but maybe there's a difference between can and should. Can and should. And they can do what they did. And they can put the economic development needs and potential casino needs above the fire safety of their citizens and their fire department. They could do that. But should and could are two different things. And they decided, you keep bringing up, putting people in danger. The city leaders put the people in danger by assuming that we're going to do this anyway, even if it is poor debt management practices. And then we're going to put all the emphasis on the fire department. That's the story. So,
if it is poor debt management practices, could someone share evidence of that, or could we put the item on the agenda and give staff an opportunity to make their recommendation and to explain to us why this equates to poor debt management? Attorney Aiken, or does the chair single-handedly get to determine that it cannot be placed on the next agenda?
This is my answer about the agenda.
can I stop you? I will stop you.
You may stop.
Do you believe that it's virtuous to proceed on a path that gets the city of Rocky Mount to finance that land in a way that represents good management practices that I do, and meet the needs of the fire department? So I don't. When we have folks who are sending emails just to 2 LGC members,
It was 3. There were lots of people on it.
talking about members,
I believe I saw Secretary Marshall up there along with several others.
which one's that?
I think she's in agreement with me that.
Another one came out later.
I've not seen one.
You haven't seen
First one.
Maybe
First
it's
one
in
was just the 2 of you.
But to answer your question, I don't know whether this issue is virtuous or not because I haven't had the opportunity to be briefed on the issue and weigh all of the options. So I do not have an answer to your question.
Cindy, member asked a question. Obviously, which you don't have to answer the question. We've been to this part. We've been to this before.
I haven't.
Go ahead.
Having Robert's rules as the guide, what we call an agenda is more technically referred to as the order of business because we are a body that meets regularly with an order of business. All of our matters are mostly new. So there's a distinction in the Robert's rules. So we have an order of business. The job of a secretary of an organization is to prepare the order of business. In our practice, the treasurer as the chair meets regularly with staff to plan. Staff brings to him, these are the upcoming applications. So it's been the long-standing practice to have, back up, Robert's Rules does not tell you guidance on how your order of business is to be determined. So what happens in here is the chair meets with the staff, meets with the secretary, and jointly take a recommendation of what is ready for the agenda. Mr. Philbeck pointed out, I believe last time, that we like our good practice to have things such that they would be approved on a consent agenda. Every once in a while, there's one that maybe staff isn't going to recommend or is neutral, and that might be pulled aside to not be on the consent agenda. For the most part, it was just efficient and to do it that way. call that the preliminary agenda. Changes can be made at the last minute. There's always been the opportunity of any member to make motions to bring up new business. That's in Robert's rules as well. Or additional business, I should say. It's just been custom and usually works smoothly to allow the chair some leeway on what gets on the agenda. It's Secretary Penny is correct that there's no statutory authority for that. Efficiency, the vetting is happening behind the scenes. That's a bad word, not behind the scenes. Vetting is happening by our analysts, the debt analysts, the fiscal analysts, with their expertise on this, and give recommendations as they see appropriate for each case. If that helps. But it's a combination of Robert's rules and how it works with staff doing the vetting and analyzing, processing applications.
I'll make a motion at the next meeting that we put that the city of Rocky Mount, that we put on the agenda, the needs of this fire department, and in hopes, well, this is not properly worded, so I'm withdrawing my motion.
I don't know, Mr. State Treasurer, why don't you fellows go home and tell your city council and city manager, say, why don't y'all come back here? It isn't really our job to carry this water. We're firefighters. We're not politicians or policy makers. And I believe if the city council would come back here, or the city manager, sit down where you're saying, and say, let me tell you why we think we ought to do this. This body decide, let's have a dialogue, and let's see where it goes from there. And let's just kind of tone it down in here a little bit. Yes,
You're not in charge, but may I be recognized, please?
Yes, I'm sorry. I
No.
always try to recognize you.
You do, but he pointed to me. I guess this has a Cindy aspect to it. Would it be possible to do a motion that said this will be on the next agenda, and that provided the city finance officer, mayor, whomever, if we want to, or designated by name or designated by office, come?
And explain this whole timeline that's been sent to all of us.
Everything we want, and answer all our questions.
Open to questions.
Cindy
That's what I
gave,
thought this meeting was about. So.
well, but we didn't have any compulsion for those people to come.
No, there was, yes, because this meeting was not about putting it on the agenda.
Correct.
If we put it on the agenda, then those people should come.
They should come.
But this meeting was not about that. This was about the need for the fire station, because there was a controversy over that. Her motion is put it on the agenda and require city officials to come, which I would support.
I would second that motion.
Okay.
And I hate to ask Treasurer, but just so staff is clear, we talk about the agenda in two ways. One is what we're talking about, and one is the debt packages that you receive. I just want to be clear, so we're not surprised next month what you're directing staff to, how you're including staff to include this on the
I'd have it for
agenda.
discussion.
Their submission ready to go on to an agenda?
We had it since March.
We'd give them the same analysis that we do everybody else.
Just clarifying again, because they were on the quote agenda this time, but it wasn't the agenda as, so again, just trying to be clear what
But the
Commissioner's
Secretary of
requesting.
State's suggestion is, providing we'll put it on the agenda, providing the city manager, the city finance officer, and the mayor, or no, just those two?
Mayor.
And the mayor should come too.
Treasurer, what do you think about it?
Yes, I agree.
And if they don't show, we'll say maybe you'll come next time.
Sorry, that was mayor, the manager.
Well, I don't know why we have to, I can't.
They need to come to
You could just say city officials.
city officials.
That's the invitation that's been out there
But
for a
these
while.
are city officials.
No, that invitation has not been out here for a while. These are we're talking about city policy making officials. That we can specify that. And the difference is we're putting it on to be discussed and be voted up or down.
A suggestion right here by the astute city councilman who does great work. This is the woman that got all the utilities out to Randolph County from the city of Greensboro to make that chip battery plant that's building all the batteries for the Honda, which is
Toyota.
I mean, this is a lady that carried the water to get that done out of Greensboro into Randolph County.
I think if we put this on the agenda and simply request appropriate city officials to attend for discussion.
For discussion or for a vote?
Discussion.
Discussion, then.
And we'll see if it leads to a vote.
Obviously, we would vote.
But there's a difference. Discussion, they don't do the analysis. So we need. So we if they're going, and that's not going to do us any, because the one of the issues is they're not financially viable. So we need the analysis in order to have a meaningful discussion.
Well, whenever, for instance, when Guilford County had $1.7 billion school bond, I mean, a whole contingent from Guilford County came.
Everyone.
That was an item to be voted on, and they were available for questioning by us. So I think that's what we're asking for.
And we had the analysis done. And all I'm saying is treat Rocky Mount just like we treated Guilford County.
I would be in agreement with that.
Well, Guilford County had a bond vote that had passed.
Correct.
Overwhelmingly.
Totally different.
But it occurs to me, this is Mike Philbeck, it occurs to me that compromise probably ought to be, seems to me, and I don't know where Secretary Marshall was going, whether she wanted to vote next month or whether she wanted to have the discussion with actually the manager and whoever else, but to try to persuade them to practice good debt policies and bring it back as a package and get rid of the 59-month loan, which appears to be poor debt practices. It seems to me that would be in the best interest of Rocky Mount. That's my 2 cents.
Secretary Marshall.
Well, we've had plenty on for a vote, which is what I think this should be, and we've postponed. I can remember Johnson County in particular and some other ones where we suggested some things to them, and they did make modifications or certain assurances into the package that they came back with. So we put it on for a vote, and if it's all good and wonderful, we can vote, and if it's not, we can postpone it to another time if they're willing to make modifications that this commission thinks are appropriate.
And in all respect, I thought that's where we were headed since last winter. Which means you wouldn't be sitting here.
But it was never on for.
No, I'm talking about the communication with the city. And I would like for you to include in your group the financial advisor to the city.
Oh, yes, I agree with that.
The financial advisor will be here.
Yes. So you want to?
Yes, sir. I make that amendment. Financial advisor included, along with the financial officer.
Second, Secretary's motion.
Okay. So somebody help Cindy with the motion.
Somebody better repeat.
I'll take a stab at it. That we place this on the agenda next month for full consideration. And that, should we say we expect? We expect that the financial leadership of the town appear as well as the financial advisor.
Treasurer's not liking that.
Not expect. That's how we got in this
Okay?
vortex.
Require? Require?
Yeah.
Require?
All right. Sorry, who are the folks? The FA, and then city people would be FO, finance officer? Who would you want to come besides the financial advisor?
City manager and the finance advisor, and preferably the mayor. job, he held his hand up, get him in here and let him settle up.
But no preferred. No word.
Yep. No,
No.
make it required language, I'm sorry.
So this, you're going to
That's what I was hoping for today.
consider the pending application for the fire station financing, requiring mayor, city manager, finance officer, or mayor or delegate, I don't need to put words in your mouth. You want the mayor? We'll put the mayor. Mayor, city manager, finance officer, financial advisor. Financial advisor.
They need to walk through that door.
To consider the application that's before us and the possibility of a compromise package.
It very well may be there's members of city councils that don't even understand this. And I will tell you what, I hadn't had a soul from Rocky Mount telling me they're in favor of a casino. I know a lot of people in Rocky Mount. I haven't had one soul tell me they're in favor of having a gambling casino in their community. Yeah. Yeah, Treasurer recognizes.
Well, we have a motion, a second, discussion, Alderman Holmes.
And so it's adding on the possibility of considering a compromise package or combination, well, maybe that's the wrong word, compromise package of their
Or a modification of their request.
This land financing is 59.
I wasn't going to be that specific, but a possible modification of their
Specifics are good.
request.
Okay.
Could we just to be clear, I think we've gone back and forth. Cindy, I don't know if you have something or if you want me to read what I have just to make sure that all members understand before they vote.
Yep. Will you say it again?
Do you want to try yours?
Secretary Marshall moves that on the July LGC meeting, which by the way is the week after the 4th of July, we place this pending fire station financing application on the agenda for full consideration, requiring the presence to answer questions, the mayor, the city manager, finance officer, and the third-party financial advisor representative, and including the possibility of modifying their existing financing of the 59-month that financing. I'll word that.
You ought to probably describe it as whatever.
Describe it as I have the city minutes from January when we did that.
Any further discussion?
And was there a second?
Yes.
I think we both seconded the motion. Either way, I just want to state for the record that I am not for or against a casino in Rocky Mount. That is not something I am informed about, and my only concern is regarding the fire station.
We have a motion, a second on the table. Any further discussion?
Second.
All right.
All those in favor, will clerk will call the roll.
Okay, so that's Marshall and Holmes. Secretary Penny?
Aye.
You, Mr. Butler?
Aye.
Ms. Harvey?
Aye.
Thank you. Councilwoman Hoffman?
Aye.
Mr. Philbeck?
Aye.
Thank you. Treasurer Folwell?
Aye.
May I say something? I'm a little bit of a Pollyanna. I like to believe in good of all people. There has been, what I've read in the newspaper, no one else has talked to me anything about it, but apparently even the gentleman who sold this land felt like it was not fully represented to him as to what the project was going to be. And I think that's a bad look for economic development in North Carolina. And trying to have the ends justify the means is never good government policy.
Thank you, Secretary of State. Those of us that talk about
Thank you.
Transparency's a little short supply, so.
Look forward to getting those questions answered. Thank you all for your being here, for your service. And
You happen to be in the wrong spot at the right time.
that's their job sometimes.
I would like to say, thank you for taking the time to listen to us. Thank you for the commission. Thank you for the state of North Carolina, as well as the other municipalities and the counties in the state. We appreciate everyone, the job that you do. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Chief.
Was this hotter or less hot than a fire?
I've been in fires a lot hotter than this. I can tell you. So, we appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Also, just to provide some context to the facility, I've got some pictures. I'll be more than happy to see the current conditions of the station.
You could go to Summerfield. Yeah. Oh, sorry, that was. There's some vacancies. Congratulations on your position. All right, we're next to our next agenda item.
Next.
And just for the record, too, sorry, Cindy,
Thank you.
Secretary Marshall also has to.
I don't think our council will
Just for
ever have.
minutes purposes, we'll.
Did you know what,
I'm so sorry that you had to.
We're getting ready to hear a very important conversation.
No, we've got several items before that.
DOT.
You have to do two.
Can we go to DOT before we lose our members? Thank y'all. Get some vittles there.
Is that what we're?
Yeah. Can we go to DOT before
Frank?
we lose our vittles? Before we lose our members?
Sorry.
You really got a good day to come. Secretary of State, are you leaving?
Initiation.
The votes online, Secretary Marshall must leave. Bye. Anybody else still here?
Financial control.
We have a brief update, members, on DOT financial status. Presenting this afternoon will be Mr. Frank Bowen. He is our transportation analyst here with the Department of State Treasurer with State and Local Government Finance Division.
Do we have a handout on this?
We do not. No, I can
You
make.
got copies?
We can make them available after the meeting.
And are you gonna have a slideshow up here?
A few brief slides.
And you're the DOT, and do you work for DOT or do you work for the treasurer?
And actually,
I've worked with the Department of State Treasurer. I used to work.
And actually, his first slide will provide a little bit of background on his position and why he's presenting. Next slide,
I
please.
want to see this. I'm looking forward to seeing this.
Thank you. Like I said, as far as background, why we're here is State Department of Transportation debt often comes before the LGC for approval. RV, Lake Authority, require LGC approval. Building C debt requires approval of State Treasurer. So that's why I'm talking to you all this afternoon. Session Law 2091 created this position within the Department of State Treasurer to review and monitor DOT's programs as they affect their bonds. As part of these duties and in cooperation with the Office of State Budget and Management, we review Department of Transportation spend plans. And their spend plan for fiscal year 2025-2026 was approved in May. So that's the background of what we're discussing today. That's the next slide.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
Is Global Transport still active in this?
It's still active, yes, sir. In fact,
what kind of dollar amount are we talking about?
Tens of millions.
Tens of millions.
I'm on that board.
Do they issue their own bonds now?
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Okay, all right.
Didn't mean to get distracted on that. The fundamental we're looking at.
Stay out of Northern Kentucky.
The fundamental metric that both the Department of Transportation, OSBM, and we use is a comparison of their combined cash balance to their open commitments. It's a metric that they use in their financial updates and their presentations, and it's referenced in the spend plan. Next slide. And please stop me after the third cup of coffee. I can talk really fast, so please. slow me down if I need to. The Department of Transportation's cash balances this is from the spend plan, are projected for 2025. The Highway Trust Fund, and it is projected to decline significantly from its present levels. So the cash balances are going down, or projected to go down. The Highway Trust Fund, when we talk about combined, it's a combination of the Highway Trust Fund, the Highway Fund, and you should loop into that the set aside or the fund for the emergency fund, $125 million fund. Next slide.
Next slide.
Okay, so we'll start with, we've got the background of the cash balances that we're looking at. Open commitments is they've had increased steadily since 2021. There is a major project that you've probably heard about in the newspapers in Asheville, a $1.145 billion project that was awarded in May. That should be showing up imminently on their commitment reports. Bids were opened in 2024, February 2024, and you can see that the bids came in significantly higher than estimates. The project was awarded in May, and it's $1.437 billion.
So this project's been awarded, but it's not where?
It gets confusing. It's in Asheville.
I know where I know it's I-26 connector.
It has not showed up. It was awarded in May. We get our next report imminently, probably this week, that shows their commitment levels. Current commitment levels are at approximately $8.2 billion. We expect this to be reflected in the next one we will receive, hopefully this week.
So this was awarded, but it's not in their commitment.
This doesn't show up until it's awarded. That's when it becomes a commitment. Okay. And
that's normal.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay, all right.
Well, it's normal, but it can get a little bit hazy. The project was awarded, or was let, bids were opened in February, and it took until May for it to be, because the bids were so much higher, for the final, it's a design build project, which gets more, it's not just simply saying how much to build this building or road or whatever. The parameters of the contract are somewhat flexible, so they nail it down over time. Anyway, the bottom line is, since February, they've been negotiating to get the best and final offer for that project. That came in at 1.147, and I wish I could stop there, but unfortunately, under this design build process, for 6 months, they have an optimization and refinement process where they can adjust the parameters of the project over that time period. And
They be in the state or they be in the road?
Department of Transportation.
Okay.
And so that's one of the things we want to nail down right now. This project was a year ago, was scheduled in November, then it moved, which does happen. We moved to February. Now it has been awarded. And so we're saying we've got something finite with an award letter to that amount, and we want that to appear as part of the commitment.
So what is your fear?
That's what's, my fear is we've got two things moving in opposite directions. We've got the commitments are trending up. That does not reflect this $1.1 billion project that should be showing up imminently. That's part of the formula. And then you've got, as we discussed before, you've got cash balances, combined cash balances going down. So by their metrics, and we can get into what's in the spend plan, by their own projections, we're getting into what historically could be a danger zone, for lack of a better term. This is a historical presentation of that formula. If we go back one, that's kind of the history of open commitments, and then the green line is their cash balances. And if you look at 2017, that precluded we're familiar, the crisis of 2019 and 20. You see the history. We don't want to get anywhere near 2019 and 2020 financial situation. That's, from my perspective, that's why this position was created over here, to prevent that from happening. If the next slide shows the same data, but in percentages, this ratio. So we look back in 2018, you saw the ratio was, that cash was 26% of commitments. Currently, the cash is 31% of commitments. We've had discussions with DOT, with OSBM about, have we defined a point where it gets, you owe so much more than what you have in the bank that you can't recover. You're going to get the point where we were in 2019. We haven't defined that yet. And I can tell you that in before April, the cash, about recently, the cash ratio was in the 25% range. So and it's gone back up. So we know that I don't recommend we dance with that, but historically, that's the ratio we're getting into. What I'm concerned about is that when you put that $1 billion into commitments and you see the continued reduction in cash balances, that we're going to get into an area that even that DOT identifies as a danger zone. Next slide, I'm sorry.
Where's this $1 billion, but what's being done with it in Asheville?
I-26 connector in Asheville, coming up from Greenville to Johnson City.
And this kind of ties it back to where I am. If you look at the trend lines in here, this is the Highway Trust Fund balance, which is the source of payment for building C bonds. And I think we've got a really good working relationship with OSBM and with DOT in discussing these matters, and I've told them we have no sense of humor over that balance. You can see from the end of last year, you can see that it's reducing significantly. I was perspiring because of when we were getting that 25% ratio. You were seeing the trust fund balance go from about $1 billion to below $700 million, and it's in the $700 million range now. So all these things I'm pointing at is there are indicators that that ratio is going to get in a troubling situation. The next slide goes, I'm referencing these back to what the spend plan is talking about. So the spend plan says with the current projections before the award of this project, that they would have a cash balance of $1.6 billion or 19% of commitments in December of 2024. Now, that's 19%. That looks like 19% of a commitment balance of $8.4 billion, approximately where it was at the time of their submittal. With that, the award of that project, I think it's going to be comparing whatever the cash balance is of that time to closer to in excess of $9 billion. So that percentage, which shows up in their review as a danger zone, it's why it's being looked at, could conceivably, I suspect, probably will be different from that if everything else stays constant, will be lower than 19%. That's a danger zone. The cash balance for December of 2025 is projected at $1.425 billion. So the cash balance is projected to go down. We know commitments are going to go up. That ratio is of concern. The reason, in a nutshell, why we're bringing this issue, or we're discussing this right now, is we have a memorandum of agreement between the Department of State Treasurer and Department of DOT concerning loans between the Highway Fund and the Highway Trust Fund. With the trends that we're discussing here, the Highway Trust Fund continues to fall. We have the possibility of the necessity for a loan from the Highway Fund to the Highway Trust Fund seems quite probable. Under that memorandum of agreement, a short-term loan is 24 months. To approve that, we're going to need to talk in terms of, okay, how is that going to be paid back? How is the trust fund going to be, the Highway Trust Fund, going to be in a situation to pay back within 24 months any loans that come from?
Let me ask you, is that what happened after the hurricane when the money was transferred wrong?
It's what happened, but it was in reverse. At that time, the Highway Trust Fund was loaning money to the Highway Fund. The Highway Fund was low. Now we're contemplating something in the reverse of that.
Well, who was that? Okay, Boyden, Loudon, Bowie, what was the secretary's name back then? Started with a B.
Boyette.
Secretary Boyette he was subsequent to Trogdon.
He came in to rescue it from
Trogdon.
Previous secretary.
I went kind of fast. I know you're limited time, but I'll be happy to entertain any questions.
I'm going to call on the staff for Sam.
Sam Watson, Legislative Liaison. I just wanted to add one footnote to that because you raised the question, Mr. Butler, about the loan. Another issue with the loan that we saw in the 2019-2020 timeframe that led to the creation of his position and our responsibility to report these matters to you was that Secretary Trogdon did not seek the permission of the treasurer or the agreement of the treasurer on the terms for the loan as required in GS 147. And so that was another issue we had to work through with DOT, but there's a functioning relationship and a process, the appropriate memorandum for approving those transfers. But that does, so on the positive side, that increases our transparency, but it also increases our ability to worry about paying for the building C bond if the highway trust fund is not appropriate.
And that agreement and that relationship and that process preceded all the way back to not exactly Treasurer Bowles, but at least to Treasurer Moore.
Yes, sir.
You're the one who got it turned around and straightened out.
No, the state employees got it turned around, straightened out. But
Okay.
we had to draw attention to the fact that they had taken money out of the Highway Trust Fund in violation of the statute.
That's what.
It was set up originally around the early 2000s to do it that way. DOT did it again without following the process of the statute. And now they're requesting to you, part of the request for the conversation here is that they go in the other direction.
So are they, in my words, not yours, are they writing checks they can't cash?
I can't say that now, sir. No, I wouldn't say that. What I'm concerned about is that, and like I said, we've had discussions, but they haven't formally come to the department, they being the Department of Transportation, has not come and asked for a loan to balance this thing out. It has been discussed, and so it's on the radar, as I would say. My point is that I was around when all this, I was at DOT when the bottom was falling out, and we don't want to get anywhere near that again. I'm trying to make sure that that everybody knows what's potential out there and has some kind of concepts of how we can react when we identify that it's. So we'll have more information. I want to see, like I say, the spend plan has just been approved. We should be seeing new commitment levels that reflect, not project, that reflect that actual $1.1 billion project. And then we can compare that to cash balances and these trends and identify. So I can't say that they're going broke now.
I didn't say going broke. I said writing checks they can't cash.
At this point, no, sir, I can't say that.
You can float things for a while. So the numerator, which is the cash balance, is falling.
Yes, sir.
The denominator, which is the commitments, is rising.
The combined cash balance, the highway trust fund balance is falling.
Right.
The highway fund is healthy and it's staying there, so it's around $2.4 billion right now. Right. The combined is projected to go down in the 1.6 to 1.4 range.
And the commitments are going up.
Yes, sir.
Any questions?
They're not taking in as much as they're going to pay out.
That was a lot of information, but I felt when it was brought to my attention that the commission deserved to know if we're heading back in the same direction we were in 6 years ago or not. So that's why I prepared that report. So. Any other questions? Yes.
You five are the remaining members, and you are the quorum. Okay. So if there's any more voting to be done, we have a bare minimum quorum.
Okay.
I will need to leave, so if there's something that we need to vote on, let's get to it.
Thank you.
Oh, attention also, does everybody know, at 5 o'clock, we have to go out through this door now. That outer door is locked, so we'll take care of that as need be.
Go out, you just can't come in.
You can come in if you have a badge, but you can't even get out.
Okay, we're fine.
Mr. Treasurer, we're at number, we still have to do 7, 10, 11, and 12, and they're all voting items.
Go ahead.
7, update on LGC units again for members' time. The updates are in the packet. I think Kendra's just going to present the items for vote.
Right, I just speak to
It's
you
the
about.
10th.
Thank you, Steve.
I'm sorry?
It's the 10th, right?
Number 7?
This is item number 7, attachment D, which is the updates and actions related to units under LGC control. Thank you.
So for the town of Kingstown, we have 3 amendments that we need to be made. The first one is an amendment to a grant project ordinance that was adopted in 2021 related to ARPA money. This is simply to authorize that this money be moved from the grant project ordinance to an annual project ordinance. And then the second amendment is in the water and sewer fund, is to bring that money in from the grant project ordinance and then be able to use it to offset utility expenses in that fund. And then the third amendment that we have for the town of Kingstown is to use appropriated some fund balance that has been restricted for use in Parks and Recreation. They have identified a project in Parks and Recreation that they would like to spend that money on. This is money that has been accumulated over the course of a couple of different years to be used for Parks and Rec. So those are the 3 amendments that we have for Kingstown. And then, do we want to do each one of those separate to vote on those, or do you want?
Together.
Okay. And then Spring Lake is to revisit the amendment that was at the last meeting in reference to using the fund balance that is restricted to only pay off debt service for the Manchester Fire Station. That money is in fund balance is restricted, can only be used for that. So the recommendation was to go ahead and pay that debt service, put that money towards the debt service rather than holding it in restricted fund balance. So those are the items that need to be voted on for units that we control at the moment.
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, clerk call the roll.
Here we're voting on all of the items for Kingstown and the Spring. Okay. Holmes and Hoffman. With that, we have 3 absents here. Marshall's absent. Secretary Penny.
Aye.
Mr. Butler.
Aye.
Mr. Phil and Treasurer Falwell.
Aye.
5-0. That's
Attachment F, members, is a resolution providing notice to Rutherford County regarding financial control of Cliffside Sanitary District. This is essentially a notice that LGC staff is intending to come back to you with a recommendation to return control of Cliffside Sanitary District. Quick background on this is that LGC assumed control in 2019 of Cliffside Sanitary District. We've worked through the issues which led to that assumption of control, and we are preparing to finish the fiscal year 23 audit. And at that time, we'd like to recommend return of control. This isn't something we typically give you a sort of pre-notice about. We're doing this because there is currently no governing board at Cliffside Sanitary District. There are no members. The county, the LGC actually adopted a resolution back in 2019 calling on the county to appoint members to the vacancies, and to date, we aren't aware of anybody serving on that board. So our role financially, we've addressed the issues. We would like to recommend return of control, but there is not an entity at this point to return it to. And so this is simply a resolution for the commission to direct staff to let the county know that this is staff's intent, is to come back to you and return control. I have had discussions, and our staff has had discussions with the county manager and attorney and utilities director, so they're aware. I know they have some concerns about this, but again, in our role, assuming control when there's certain issues identified, we've addressed those and are working on addressing those. And so at the point those are addressed, we'll be looking to come back to you to make a recommendation to return control. So again, essentially, all this resolution is doing is directing us to provide a notice to the county that we intend to come back and suggest return of control.
To the county.
To the county. Return control, we're working to the district potentially that is vacant. So
To the county, who will not appoint the board to govern the district. Okay.
For the county to appoint a board.
Well, no, just, we can't do anything else.
Get rid of it.
Yeah. Okay. Do I hear a motion?
I didn't hear an answer to his question.
You would,
the question.
no, I just said,
The county is appointing the board.
The county is responsible statutorily for filling the vacancies.
Filling the vacancy, okay.
Yes, sir.
Asked them to do that 5 years ago. They didn't, and they haven't, and they won't.
And suppose they say no now.
They're the one that, they created Cliffside decades ago.
I understand, but suppose they say no now.
That's why I'm asking you to support this resolution to return it back to them.
we don't have to say no. We got to give them the opportunity to say no.
But right now, we're barking and we ain't got no bite. I just want to know if we got a little bite.
I think we're going to have to find some legal scholar to do research. There's nothing in the statute that addresses it. It says the county commissioners shall fill the vacancies.
And they violated that. They violated that when we were taking over.
Unfortunately, the statute also says that the board has to be residents of the district. All we've heard is anyone who's qualified refuses to serve. Anyone who wants to serve is not qualified. And that's, I don't.
And just to be clear, qualified again, I think we're talking about residency qualification, not other types of qualifications.
So it's minimal.
Yeah. And it is a separate legal public authority. It's a district. They have taxing power.
Yeah.
They're just like,
So how could we?
I don't know what to do.
Well, we took over, but we weren't on the board.
There was one member of the board when we stepped in, and she was barely hanging on.
I make a motion to support the resolution.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk call the roll.
This is the Rutherford County CSD resolution. Falwell Penny, Auditor Holmes.
Aye.
Mr. Butler.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hoffman.
Aye.
Okay, 5-0, that passes. Now, I know everybody's itching to go. We got 2 more.
Two more, yes. So, if we don't mind, we'll switch to the safe harbor policy. First, we want to end the meeting maybe on a really strong, happy note. So let's go to the resolution to revising the safe harbor policy. Again, there's a lot of background in here for you, but essentially last year, the LGC adopted a safe harbor policy related to the reasonableness of assumptions that finance officers have to make in their bond orders. Subsequent to that, another law was passed that requires a different disclosure of interest rates, and we are simply looking to change our safe harbor policy basically to accommodate those new requirements of the new law, because they're asking for disclosures under two different calculations essentially, or two different ways of looking at it. We want to allow our safe harbor policy to allow both the assumptions that under the way we defined them previously, as well as the new definitions under this new law. And again, as a reminder, the safe harbor policy is not required to be followed. It's just that the LGC now is required to make a finding that the assumptions used in calculating the interest were reasonable. And so we came up with the safe harbor policy so that the commission didn't have to vote on this on every occurrence. So we're simply revising the safe harbor policy to reflect some new legislation and accommodate that new legislation.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk will call the roll.
The safe harbor policy, Falwell and Hoffman, Auditor Holmes.
Aye.
And Secretary Penny.
Aye.
Mr. Butler. Aye. That's plus 2, that's 5. Motion carries.
Final vote, members, is Attachment G, resolution returning financial control to the town of Kingstown. Staff, LGC staff, town staff, town elected officials have worked to address the issues that led to the LGC assumption of control. They are up to date on their audits. They've brought in assistance for bookkeeping. They've worked through those issues, and we would like to recommend that financial control be returned to the town of Kingstown effective July 1st, which would allow us the time to get through the budget cycle here. You all know we have the budget hearings coming up, and also allow us some time to transition some of those responsibilities over to town staff.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Okay, Kingstown, Holmes, and Hoffman. Secretary Penny.
Aye.
Mr. Butler.
Aye.
Mr. Caldwell.
Aye.
Okay.
Entertain a motion to adjourn. I want to thank all of the staff and members for sticking with us. Really, really ticklish issues coming at us for the rest of the next few months, and I look forward to every opportunity that we can to work together. So, motion to adjourn. Teenagers. I separate you two in class. Both of you are blushing. Can I get a motion out of one of you to?
Yes, I so moved.
Second.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk call the roll.
All in favor? Do it then.
Aye.
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 We're adjourned.
Go ahead, Victor.
Getting